Good morning, and hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. We are back together for live trials with me, Emily D. Baker today. Yes, Emily, are you tired? I know, yes, very. It's day 27 of trial. I'm exhausted. I'm sure the attorneys in trial are exhausted. I'm sure you're exhausted. Yesterday was a lot of court to take in. I don't know if you're starting to feel incredible empathy for the jury. I'm sure you already have, but everything they see, they get to see once. They don't get to talk about it. They can't go back and like rewind and like watch it again and process it, or watch someone else talk about it and process it, or watch someone else talk about it and process it. They have to sit there, listen, and then they have to wait to process it together. And it is going to get harder and harder. I have to say how much I appreciate all of our first-time trial watchers. A lot of you saw the documentaries or saw stuff on social media and we're like, oh, it's going to trial again. I want to see. All of the first-time trial watchers, thank you so much. You guys have left incredible comments giving us feedback from how you're taking things away in this case, how evidence is striking you as it's coming in, how you're seeing things as they unfold in the chat. And I appreciate it because I've said a million times, I can only walk back so far from what I know because it's hard. And a lot of you yesterday commented on how impactful the video was of Karen Reed's Lexus being pulled onto the tow truck. I know that we saw it earlier in trial, but it seems that with the context that we have now, seeing it again in this point in the defense case in chief was hugely impactful and really made a difference, because even though they played it, the Commonwealth played it much earlier in their case, watching it now with everything you've known and everything you've seen and everything that you've heard about the case, seeing that pull onto the tow truck just hit different for those of you that have not seen it multiple times and maybe only saw it once when the Commonwealth played it, because they did not play it very much. I also saw a ton of comments saying that knowing that the Commonwealth did not call Officer Barrows, even though they called him the first trial, was like a period for you. It doesn't matter what he was asked. It doesn't matter what he said on cross-examine. A lot of you said you felt that he was incredibly truthful in cross-examination. He was incredibly forthcoming. And it's like, okay, so yeah, he saw stuff on social. They called him last time. They didn't call him this time. Period. I don't want to hear anything else. They think that that testimony is bad for them. I don't care what he might have seen. He was truthful about it. So period. Because they didn't call him this time. Why wouldn't they call him this time? Because it's not good for them. So those things were hugely impactful. And then seeing all the videos together, one by one, worked really well for a lot of you that had forgotten some of the videos being played earlier in the trial, because so much has happened since then. So those were some of the big takeaways from the end of yesterday that I saw in the comments. Again, thank you. And one of the big takeaways for me is there was so much that happened in the cross yesterday of Dr. Russell. And part of me has to wonder if the strategy from Brennan was just to confuse as much as possible. It kind of hurts my head because generally the strategy of prosecutors is to make everything clear and more clear. And it seems like Brennan is constantly trying to muddy the waters, which is typically what you see from defense attorneys that are trying to make things less clear. So it can be this, and then there's doubt. And Brennan sometimes is doing that. It's just so confusing to me. And one of the things, as I was, packing until way too early this morning, but one of the things I was thinking about that was so different and staggering from Dr. Russell's testimony yesterday was her talk about grief and how she discounted all of the statements Karen Reed said, the interviews, the statements at the scene, the statements to law enforcement, the statements to EMTs. She discounted all of those statements because of grief, because of immediate anxiety and grief. And a lot of you have been wondering about that, thinking about that, and saying, well, I don't know how much these videos hit because, they're all happening so close in time. She just found him in the snow. So there's shock there. There's trauma there. There's grief there. There's wondering, like, could I, what happened? There's questioning. And the defense couldn't argue that last time because no one got into it last time. But the Commonwealth didn't rely on Karen Read's statements as much as they are this trial. Let me know if you agree, but I feel like the defense is using Karen Read's statements like duct tape for their case. Like, you just put that shit on everything and it's going to be fine. They're using her statements to duct tape over all of the other questions that you might have. It's like, what about this? But what did she say? Well, what about this? But what did she say? And I think Dr. Russell cut that argument for the jurors that are going to say she's questioning, she's having a trauma response, she's having a grief response. So how can we trust anything she says? It gives jurors evidence and words to talk to the other jurors. Is she blaming herself because of grief? Is she blaming herself because they were fighting that night? Or is it a confession? But the jurors can now argue about it. And depending on their life's experience, they now have a doctor backing them up. So whether Dr. Russell thinks this scratch came from a claw or this scratch came from a canine on a canine that's not also a canine, well, does it matter if the jurors are going to be saying, yeah, but I don't care about anything she said? I don't think about anything she said. Chat, did I say the defense was using it as duct tape? I fully meant that the prosecution was using her statements as duct tape. It brains the prosecution using her statements as duct tape because the jury might have felt that way, but now they have evidence to back it up, and the defense has evidence to back it up. And while they didn't get into it more, I don't know if the defense needed to get into it more. I think they wanted to. I wanted to see them get into it more. But I think the defense is going to put that in their notebook, put it in their pocket, and we're going to hear a lot more about that when we get to closing argument. Because at closing argument, you want to tell the jury, the jurors that are on your side, because at closing, there are going to be some jurors, in this case, on the side of the prosecution and on the side of the defense. That would not surprise me at all. You want to give the jurors that see the case your way the language they need to convince the other jurors. Let them know. Let them know how they can explain it. And Dr. Russell went a long way to do that. So while I think Attorney Brennan undoubtedly offended her, and if she is going to do expert testimony more, there's shock. This is chat, gird your loins. Attorneys can be dicks. It just questioning and cross-examination is like that. I probably am a bit too neutralized to it because I've worked in law for so long. It doesn't even surprise me anymore. It's like, yeah, that's what they do. Maybe I shouldn't feel so normalized about it. Maybe it should be like, stop it. No, that's not okay. But even though it was clear that Brennan offended her, I think that she served him his biggest argument on a platter. And he walked right into it. He rocked right into it. He's had some good cross-examinations. It's clear he likes to do it. That cross-examination did not go his way. There were parts of it that did, but that piece of cross-examination, that part is going to be a ticking time bomb for the prosecution, who wants to use what Karen Read said on 2020 as a balm for everything. It's not. It's not a cure-all. So we're going to get into court today. I'm going to try to keep it, Emily, you're going to try to keep it close to real time? Yes. So I can hop on a plane in a timely fashion and I don't mind running through I actually do. I hate running through the airport. Like, I'm late. I would like to have a minute before I get onto a plane, but when traveling in the summer, I try to give myself a bit more time. So we are going to try to stay closer to time. So with that, we've got two things we need to do. Then we're going to go to court. Court went on the record this morning. This is going to shock you. Shock me, shock me, shock me. And went immediately to sidebar. Immediately to sidebar. So what have you missed this morning? Sidebar. You've missed sidebar and the jury walking in. but we're going to catch up with that in just a second. Let's roll the intro. And then we have a sponsor. Hey there, I'm lawyer and legal analyst Emily D. Baker, and this is your go-to destination for live court coverage. I break down the law, the strategy, and the evidence in real time so you know what's happening. No law degree required. So join the law nerds in the chat. They're here for the facts, not and let's get to court. Look, you guys, I know you are ready to watch court coverage uninterrupted. I also know that a lot of you have other stuff going on while you are watching. You are doing stuff in the background. You are waiting for the app to ping you because the wheels have come off. You are doing all of the things. One of the things that I am doing when I am watching YouTube or literally anything is playing Midas Merge. And I am thrilled that they are back as today's sponsor. I see you. There are so many of you that are kicking my ass in this game. I am trying to keep up. But I see your garden levels to my friends in the game. I see your garden levels just going up and up and up. And I'm like, I will catch up. I'm going to be doing it on a plane today if I'm not asleep. That's what we're doing. In trial, I get so far behind. And then I'm like, no, I must catch up. So thank you to Midas Merge for sponsoring this trial stream of live trials. Gavel to gavel coverage that you don't want to miss. Hey, Law Nerd, I know that court days are long days, and one of our favorite ways to pass the time is with some delightful, cozy mobile gaming. Thank you to Midas Merge for not only sponsoring today's stream, but for making one of my favorite games to unwind to. Why? It's beautiful. It's fun to play. There's always something to do, and there's none of those annoying timeouts. I hate them so much. There is nothing worse than having a game that you want to play through and all of a sudden you hit a roadblock because you have to wait for something to refill. There's always something going on in Midas Merge. So whether you are merging plants, animals, or unwinding the story to uncover new areas in your garden, you are not going to reach those timeout thresholds, and you can play without Wi-Fi, which is why I play it on the plane every time I travel. And Midas Merge is completely free to download. So if you're ready to unravel Nyx's mystery and team up with King Midas and Queen Lyria to uncover new areas of the garden, now is the time to download because I have a personalized gift for you. Be one of the first 100 to install the game via my link or the QR code and receive a unique gem fawn level 1. This adorable creature not only enhances your garden, but it's been personalized by me for you and is named WT Fawn. So make sure you download Midas Merge via the QR code or the link. It's also in the chat, and play along with so many of the law nerds that already love Midas Merge. I see you, and all of you have gardens much higher than mine, and I am jealous, but I'm catching up. Thank you again, Midas Merge, for sponsoring today's stream. Let's get back to it. Okay, I couldn't help it. I had to name it WT Fawn. I couldn't help myself. It amused me greatly. And Chris let me know that I was missing my earrings. So during the break, I was able to put them on. So here we are. Because if there's anything happening from this trial, for those of you that downloaded the last time Midas Merge sponsored, you got Ipsy Dixit. This time we have moved to WT Fawn. But now we need to move to court. Hopefully. Nope, wrong one. Hopefully we'll get some hear-yees. We'll get some hear-yees in there and we will get to court. So let's go to court. I'm ready for the hear-yees. I'm ready for all of them. I hear a microphone. I know, I forgot the earrings this morning. Look, man, the amount of sleep has been little.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. All persons having anything to do before the Honorable Beverly Cannoni, the Justice of the Superior Court, holding in Dedham, within and for the County of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is in session. Please be seated.
It's the Norfolk. Into the Norfolk for day 27.
Morning, jurors. Morning.
It's Wednesday. I don't even think I said the date. It's Wednesday, June 4th.
Were you all able to follow my instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from...
The jurors are like, yes, are we done yet?
Research or investigation into this case. Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left yesterday?
Yes.
Very much. So
But that was me.
A new witness this morning.
Yes. Good morning, Your Honor.
Morning.
The defense calls Ryan Laughlin.
Okay.
All right. They are calling Brian Laughlin. Those of you who watched Trial 1 might know him as Brian Lucky Loughran. Those of you that did not watch Trial 1, we will do our best to not spoil. But just for orientation, he is a plow truck driver, not a tow truck driver. I think I said tow truck yesterday because, Lord. Yeah, it's day 27. My brain is heavily relying on chat because chat is bae. And if I say something and I don't even catch it, y'all let me know. So for those of you watching for the first time, we're going to just let it unfold. I just have to wonder if this is another witness that the jurors are going to sit there being like, huh, why didn't we hear from you sooner? That's my question. You let me know at the end of testimony what you think.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Good morning, sir. In a
So
good
this
loud
is witness
voice, would
number
you
6.
please state your name and spell your last name?
Sure, it's Brian.
You know all the fans are on when Yannetti's like, in a big loud voice, sir. Massachusetts residents, it getting hot there today? Is it getting spicy? Is it the spicy weather? Is it getting hot and humid? Because the fans are already fanning.
Loughran, Loughran.
In what town do you live, sir?
I live in Canton.
Where did you grow up?
In Canton.
How long have you lived in Canton?
All my life.
A lot of you are saying it's hot
Did you
today.
attend Canton
And muggy.
Public Schools?
Yes, I did.
Through which grade?
I graduated from Canton High School.
What year did you graduate?
1990.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes.
How many?
I have 2 brothers, 1 sister.
Objectively, sir,
What are
we're the
their
90s
names?
betters.
Christopher, Michelle, and Michael.
Why are we
And where do
doxing
you
his
fit
family?
in the order?
I fit in between Michelle and Michael.
You're the second youngest.
Correct.
How old is your brother Michael?
Michael is 53.
What does he do for work?
He owns his own driving school, and he was a member of the select board.
And you say he owns his own driving
That's
school.
why.
In which town?
Canton.
Emily, why are they talking about his siblings? A, everybody probably already knows his siblings. B, sir, weren't the 90s better? I'm biased because most of our growing up is rarely on camera. Also, the reason they're getting into his siblings is because his brother's on the select board. Guess who else is on the select board? I guess we're gonna find out.
And you mentioned that he's a member of the select board for which town?
Town of Canton.
And what is the select board in Canton?
It's the governing body for the town.
Having grown
Like the
up in
city
Canton,
council.
are you familiar with the Albert brothers?
Yes, I am.
Which ones?
All of them.
Can you name them?
Name
Brian,
them.
Chris, Brendan, Keith, Kevin, and Tim.
Of those Albert brothers, whom do you know the best?
Chris.
How close in age are Chris and you?
Very close. I believe I'm 2 years older than Chris.
How did you become familiar with Chris?
I went to elementary school.
I've
I
known
went
him
to
since
middle school,
kindergarten.
and then he graduated from a different high school.
Or 2
Was
years,
there any other
second
relationship
grade.
between the two of you beyond being classmates?
Yes, eventually I ended up working for Chris, delivering pizzas.
How old were you approximately when you started delivering pizzas for Chris Albert?
About 26.
Do you remember the name of his pizza establishment?
D&E.
Yes, D&E Pizza,
Where is that located?
Canton Center.
Emily, have you ever been there? No.
How many years did you deliver pizzas
You
for
watch this case too
D&E
much?
Pizza
Yes.
and Chris Albert?
About 8 years.
Prior to January 29th of 2022, were you friendly with Chris Albert?
Yes,
You previously mentioned that your brother Michael is a town selectman. What political office does Chris Albert hold?
Chris Albert is
I know.
also a select board member.
And Chris Albert is Brian Albert's brother, obviously.
Yes,
Where's
So
Brian Albert
Your
live?
brother and Brian Albert's brother are both town selectmen together.
correct.
How did you become familiar with Kevin Albert?
Through D&E Pizza and
And I'm
interact.
sorry, you said through D&E Pizza?
Yes, and interactions with the DPW, doing details and stuff.
Okay. First, with regard to D&E Pizza, you said there were interactions
Yannetti's the
with
one
Kevin
asking
Albert
questions.
relating to that pizza shop. What type of interactions?
He would come in. I'd be, friendly. I'd say hello, or there'd be deliveries to the Alberts residents, and I would, make those deliveries.
You mentioned the DPW. I didn't ask you what you did for work, sir. What do you do?
I
was
work
like-
for the DPW. I work in the.
His face was like, should I have not said? I thought that was why I was here. He was just so genuine, like, shit, should I have not said that? No, sir, it's fine. It's fine. That is why you're here. That's exactly why you're here.
Highway Division.
And the DPW stands for Department of Public Works?
Yes.
For which town?
Town of Canton.
And what are your duties, or strike that, around January and late January of 2022?
Technically,
what
it's
were your
withdrawn.
duties for the
Lawyers always say
DPW?
strike that
I would plow.
things.
And how long had you worked, or to this day, how long have you worked for the DPW?
20 years.
Now, as a DPW employee, how much contact do you have with the police department?
We have varying jobs that require police details.
So
We
you're
would-
doing work, and there has to be a police officer there to oversee and direct traffic and things of that nature?
Correct.
How often have you worked in that capacity with Kevin Albert from the Canton Police Department?
About a dozen times.
And what was the nature of your relationship with Kevin Albert before January 29th of 2022?
Through D&E Pizza, I would. The Alberts usually had family functions on a weekend, and I would make deliveries.
Can these last few jurors hear the witness? I just want to make sure everybody can hear. Okay. Now, what was
Fans.
the,
All the
how did you
fans.
become familiar with Brian Albert?
Again, through D&E Pizzas and deliveries
Deliveries where?
to his residence.
Do you know what his residence is or what the address is?
I do.
What is it?
34 Fairview Drive.
What was your understanding of what Brian Albert did for a living?
My understanding, he was a police officer for the city of Boston.
Now, you say that you made deliveries to 34 Fairview Road.
I don't know if they went into this much
And
last
was
time. I
there
think
a
it's really
particular day of the
helpful.
week that you delivered more than others?
It's usually once a week, and it was usually on Sundays.
And that was to 34 Fairview Road?
Correct.
As of January of 2022, how many decades had the Albert family lived at that address, if you know?
As far as I couldn't give you a year, but I know as long as I've been in Canton, they've lived at that residence.
All right, now directing your attention to January.
I think it's a good way to get into how long they lived there, how long the Alberts lived there. And we haven't heard a ton about the Albert family this trial. This witness is like, this is who I went to high school with. I worked at the pizza place. I delivered pizza to the family members. I delivered pizza once a week. Like, he knows all of this through firsthand knowledge. It's a really good way to get into all of the intertwinedness of a smaller community where everyone knows each other, and talk about how long the Alberts lived there. And if he's still plowing streets, he might know if the Alberts are living there any longer or not. And it's come in a little bit when the Commonwealth called, I think, Welcher, who talked about the new owners of 34 Fairview, I believe is what Welcher said when he was talking about why they didn't go onto the lawn. So it's kind of out there, but not really. So it'll be interesting if they follow up with, do you still deliver pizzas? Well, no. Do you still plow 34 Fairview? Possibly, yes. And have you seen Brian Albert there still? Because he knows the Albert family well enough.
28th and 29th of 2022. Were you on duty as a snowplow driver that night and early morning?
Yes.
Lisa
When
said
did
in the
you
chat where
learn
everybody knows
that
your
you
name,
would be on duty?
a la Cheers.
Early January
everybody knows your
28th,
business.
we were notified that we had a 2:30 start time.
And that would be 2:30 a.m.
A.M.
on January 29th?
Yes.
How did you learn that you would be on duty?
Our supervisors for the DPW would notify us.
Who was your supervisor?
William Walsh.
And what instructions were you given in terms of when you were to report?
We were to report at
It's gonna be
2:30 in
wicked
the
snow.
morning and prepare our trucks for plowing.
What time did you actually get to the DPW that morning?
I got there about 2:15.
And when you say you got there, where did you go?
160 Bolivar Street.
And is that Bolivar?
Yes.
What is 160 Bolivar Street?
It is the DPW garage.
And when you go there, is there a requirement that you punch in?
Yes.
Did you punch in those early morning hours?
Yes.
Who was there when you got there?
Other DPW employees and William Walsh.
William Walsh being your supervisor?
Yes.
Were you
My
assigned
brain
a
immediately went to
specific
William
route
Wallace.
those early morning hours?
Yes.
What route was that?
Route 11.
What streets does Route 11 encompass?
Route 11 comes Cedar Crest from Dedham Street to the end. It encompasses everything from Kings Road to Chapman Street.
And streets in between as well?
Yes.
We all know where
And
Cedar
what
Crest is
street
at this
in
point.
between Cedar Crest and Chapman?
There would be Spring Lane and Fairview.
What truck or snowplow were you assigned in those early morning hours?
I was assigned Truck 30.
And does that have a particular nickname?
Yes.
Yes, it's considered a Frankentruck.
You said Frankentruck,
Yes.
Yep.
like Frankenstein.
Yes.
Why was it nicknamed Frankentruck?
It was a very uncomfortable truck, and it had a lot of mismatch of parts to make it more convenient for the driver.
It's hodgepodged.
I'd like to show you some photos, sir.
Okay.
It's like it's uncomfortable. They patched it all together. They just Oh, there's pictures of the Frankentruck. I don't think did we get pictures of the
Mr.
Frankentruck
Laughlin,
last
I've
time?
placed 4 photographs in front of you. If you could just familiarize
I don't
yourself
think we
with
got
them and
pictures
look
of the
up at me when you're
Frankentruck
done.
last time. He's like, they just, kind of banged it all together.
Do you recognize what is depicted in those photos?
Yes, I do.
And
Show us the
did you
truck.
take those photos
I did.
at my request?
Yes.
Never ever have 30,000 people been so enthralled to see a plow. And everybody's like, just show us the plow. We want to see pictures of the Frankentruck now too, especially those of us with no mind's eye who you can describe it all you want, but we want to see the Frankentruck.
What do those photos depict?
They depict the inside of Truck 30 or Frankentruck.
And is there one
Yeah,
that
we want
actually
pictures.
depicts the outside from the front as well?
Yes.
We just need
Yes.
pictures at
Do
this
those
point.
photos fairly and accurately depict Frankentruck as it looked on or about January 29th of 2022?
Yes.
I would offer those, Your Honor.
I have no objection to any of the photos.
All right, thank you.
Brennan's like, yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Perhaps they could be marked with the next exhibit number A through D.
Yes.
Yeah, we all just want to see the truck.
And once that's
At this
done,
point-
feel free to publish it.
At this point, it's like, can we have pictures? It's been a long trial. We would like to see something other than like, I don't know, the jump scare of someone else's vehicle collision in a PowerPoint presentation. We actually are interested in seeing the videos yesterday were good too. Doing the videos and the photos together.
Exhibits 211A through 211D.
Thank you. And with the court's permission, Mr. Wolf, if you would
We're on exhibit 211.
publish them one at a time in the order we discussed. I imagine that is 211A, Madam Court Reporter.
Ms. Giannetti, why don't you take the photos so you'll know what they
Oh,
are?
great idea.
Great idea, Your Honor. They don't call Frankentruck Big Green. That is the
Okay.
Frankentruck.
Could you explain what 211A
I had no idea it was gonna be
depicts
green.
for this jury?
That is the front of truck 30 Frankentruck, and it's depicting the two mirrors on the right and left side of the fenders.
Okay. What about the next one, please, Mr. Wolf? Can you identify, this is 211B, sir.
The inside
Yes, that's
of the
the
Frankentruck.
inside of the Frankentruck looking out the windshield.
As if you were seated in the driver's seat?
Correct.
Next photo, please. This is 211C. What does this depict?
This is depicting on the range that I would see seated in the front seat, looking out the windshield, and depicting how much I'll be able to see.
Okay, and this would be more toward the left side in front of you as you're seated in the driver's seat?
Correct.
All right.
Chat,
next
you're
photo,
making me
please.
laugh. Amy, yes.
This is 211D. Could you explain this to the jury?
Again, I'm sitting in the front seat of the Frankentruck, and I'm taking a picture out the right side of the windshield, again, depicting on how much I can see out it.
Thank you. Okay, we can take those down and put the lights on?
One of the recent concerts I was at,
Okay,
and
so
I've
you
been to too
previously
many
testified
lately.
that you got to
Somebody
the
had
garage
Frankenstein on their
about
guitar. I think it was
2:15
Kurt
a.m.
from
on January
Metallica
29th.
who had
Could you
Frankenstein
explain to the jury
on some of his
what
guitars.
do you do when you get there at 2:15 a.m.?
So at 2:15, we do a simple circle check to make sure that there are no defects with the truck. We go ahead and we make sure it has plenty of diesel.
Kirk,
And then
yeah.
I put,
I thought he
you
had
know, any
Frankenstein.
supplies that I may have for the night.
Thanks, Chad.
Planning on an overnight shift. And then I get in the truck and I proceed to my route.
And what type of supplies are you talking about, sir?
Any types of drinks, food, anything, snacks.
Preparing for a long night?
Yes.
The circle check.
I mean, if you're
does
gonna be
that
in the car,
mean
you
what
need
it sounds
snacks.
like, where you sort of take a circle around the vehicle?
Yes, we're trying to make sure that the truck is safe, that there is no defects that would hinder the job ahead of it of being able to plow.
And when you did the circle check in those early morning hours, was there anything unusual that you found?
None.
Were you comfortable driving the snowplow that night?
Yes.
And you mentioned that you make sure it's filled with diesel fuel so you're good for the night.
Correct.
Now, what lighting is there on the truck facing outward?
I have 4 lights. I have the initial headlights, and then I have 2 plow lights that are on either side of the fenders.
And
And then I have marking lights, and then I
I
have...
mean, Sarah in the chat said, if only he had a dash cam. The if onlys, in this case, the list I could list. If only someone had taken pictures before Karen Reed's vehicle was put on a tow truck. If only someone had had, I don't know, body cam. Like, if only, if only, if only, if only, if only.
I have work lights in the
agree.
back for the sander.
okay. If you recall the one photo that showed the truck from the outside, were the 2 plow lights visible in that photo?
Yes, they were.
Were the headlights visible in that photo?
Yes, they were.
Could we display that one more time, Your Honor, to have them point that out?
They're showing
Is there a pointer
this for
there,
visibility.
sir?
No, there is not.
Okay. Could you describe on 211A where those plow lights are?
Plow lights are just above the grill on the right side and left side.
Okay. And
I
would it
think
be
they're
fair to
the
say the plow lights appear to be
white
a clear
and
lens
orange?
and then an orange lens on either side?
Yes.
And the headlights, sir, where are those located?
They are to the right and left of the grill, and they're underneath.
Okay. And those are located just to the right of the grill in terms of as we're looking at 211A?
Yes.
Okay. We can take that down and put the lights back on? Now, do you recall whether or not... Oh, strike that. You also mentioned marking lights. Where are those?
Are you wearing a pink shirt
Marking lights
and
are
a
on
pink
the
tie,
top
sir?
of my truck.
I like
along
it.
with the beacon light on top of the truck.
And what is a beacon light?
Beacon light is exactly what it looks like. It's a light that just illuminates and it goes around in circles.
And the marking lights, what do they do?
They're similar to driving without your headlights. They're just there to mark the truck so that it's more visible for residents who may be driving and not paying attention.
And where does the lighting face those marking lights?
Front.
Okay, so in terms of the light that strictly goes toward the front, you have marking lights, plow lights, and headlights, correct?
That's a lot of
Correct.
lights.
Do you recall
All
what...
of you in the chat are like, it's the handsome man on the right. This is the questioning style I like from Yannetti. This is a questioning style that I very much like on direct examination. The questions are short, they're clear, and it's instead of trying to shove 7 sentences into one question, it is one question, then one question, then one question. The answers are concise, and I think the evidence and the testimony comes in more smoothly, and it's conversational. It feels like Yannetti is just having a conversation with the witness on the stand, asking him questions, not insinuating the answers, and just saying, okay, then this and this. Can you explain this? It is such an easy questioning style on direct to follow. It all gets cattywampus when the witness won't agree with you. We saw that earlier this week when you try to ask simple questions and then they don't answer. But they're just having a really easy conversation with the jury there. I appreciate the style of questioning. I don't think we've even heard a leading question. Just very open-ended, short, simple questions. Keeping it simple is so much easier.
When you did your circle check, you checked out whether those lights were all working.
Correct.
And were they working?
Yes.
When all of those lights are on, how bright is it in front of your truck?
Extremely bright, almost if I had a spotlight.
And that's facing straight out.
Correct.
What about facing diagonally out front?
Again, as far as the lights will illuminate.
And then on either side, directly out to the side, how far can you see?
About 5-6 feet.
Okay. So you see more when you're looking straight out and then diagonally out, correct?
Correct.
You can see farther?
Correct.
I thought he
Now,
said father.
how
You can see
about in
father? I'm
terms
like,
of
wait,
you
we're not talking about mother? Who's
being
father?
situated in the vehicle.
Farther.
How high up is the driver's seat?
Driver's seat is an air ride seat,
The
so
mass
it
is
can
massing.
adjust accordingly.
What is an air ride seat?
It is adjusted by air, and it can go up or down depending on the driver's.
And how long did it take you to do the circle check, to put your snacks in the car and water, and to make sure the
all of
car
you were
or
like,
the truck
"Father."
is
Perfect.
filled with diesel fuel?
About 5 minutes.
All right, so if you get there at 2:15, is it fair to say that you're ready to go on the road somewhere around 2:20 or 2:25 a.m.?
Correct.
And when you did start to go out on the road at around that time, how was the seat adjusted?
I adjusted the seat up so that my knees would hit the bottom of the steering wheel.
How big is that steering wheel on the truck?
It looked pretty big.
It's fairly large. It's larger than a regular passenger vehicle. It's very large.
As of January 29th of 2022, were there any obstructions on any part of the windshield that would prevent you from having a clear view in any direction through the windshield?
No.
You can see.
Once you got into that
Father.
truck in those early morning hours, how far could you see in front of your truck?
As far as my eyes would let me see.
And how far could you see diagonally?
Diagonally, probably, again, as far as my eyes would let me see.
All right. Now, you get on the road. When you plow, is there a particular method that you use?
Yes.
Describe that.
I start in the middle of the road and work to the right, angling the plow to the right.
Are you familiar with the term ring row right?
Yes.
Could you
I'm not.
explain that to the jury, please?
Or
Sounds like you were
row
singing
to
Ring
right
Around the Rosies.
Is the amount of snow that's coming off the plow, creating a row. We angle everything to the right so that it does not impede on traffic on the left.
But Emily, you
So
live
if
where
you
it
had gone in
snows.
the other direction,
We don't
you'd be
have
putting
plows.
snow right in the
Two plows.
opposite lane of travel, right?
Correct.
So you always go to the right.
Correct.
What part of the road, once you hit the roads, do you plow first? What part of the road?
I start at the yellow line and I work to the curb line.
Why do you plow the middle of the road first?
Again, I want to ring road to the right, and I want to be able to give a bigger swath of space for first responders.
And generally, after going
Right,
up a street
isn't
or
the
a road
goal-
that you plow,
Isn't the first goal to just allow clearance for a car to go through? I mean, that makes sense.
when do you come back down the same street?
Immediately after I'm done.
Now, you mentioned Route 11, your route that night. You mentioned that it takes you to Cedar Crest.
Correct.
Once you leave the DPW garage to go on your route, Route 11, how long does it take you to get to any part of Cedar Crest?
About 10 minutes.
May we display actually, it's Exhibit 49? Do we have access to Exhibit 49?
I mean, it's fair. I grew up, a lot of you are saying, Emily, snow.
What is
Yeah,
it?
I grew up in Southern
It's
California.
just a map.
I'm more familiar with earthquakes,
And if we
unfortunately.
can't put our hands on it quickly,
And I
I
live
can
in
just
Middle
display it
Tennessee.
on the screen.
3
Is it in
snowflakes.
evidence?
It is.
You can
Schools
put-
are shut for a
Okay,
week and we
thank
just
you.
hang out.
If you put up Exhibit 49
I do not have
and
to
maybe
coexist with
zoom
snow.
in so we just see, well, I think it is as zoomed in as it's going to go. Is that true, Mr. Wilk, to get,
It's true. I did think my Uggs were my snow
maybe,
boots in college
zoom
and
in
probably
on the
fell
top
on my
part of
ass
the
quite a
map,
lot.
if you would. Perfect. All right. So are you
I feel like the defense, since the last trial, has realized how important having visuals is. A, it keeps the jury engaged. B, they're not going to remember from 3-4 weeks ago when we were talking about 3-point turns on Cedar Crest or 2 weeks ago when we were talking about 3-point turns on Cedar Crest, where Cedar Crest meets everything. The jury also shouldn't be driving this way if it's not their normal way home, and these jurors don't live in Canton. They selected out from the county anyone that lived within Canton. They've done a lot better job bringing in visuals. I think the prosecution did that well at points, and then at points, it's like, can you just put up what you're talking about? The defense has done it numerous times now where they have used visuals to keep everyone kind of on the same page, and I think that's incredibly helpful.
able to see that map from where you are?
Yes, I can.
And by the way, do you wear corrective lenses?
Yes, I do.
What do you wear?
I wear glasses, and when it's inclement weather, I wear contacts.
So on the night in question, when you went out on your route that night, were you wearing glasses or contacts?
Contacts.
What are you wearing today?
Contacts.
You've testified in a prior proceeding regarding this matter last year, correct?
Yes.
What did you show up with that day?
Glasses.
And what's your difference? What is the difference in your ability to see the screen with your glasses or your contacts?
My contacts makes things a little bit more brighter, allowing my eyes to see better
You have
with
more
the
difficulty
contacts.
seeing distances with your glasses?
Correct.
All right. Any problem seeing that screen here today?
None.
All right. What does that depict?
Glasses in
That
snow suck.
depicts my route. Cedar Crest, Dew Lane, Spring Lane, and I'm not able to read the one underneath Spring Lane. Just
Certainly, it's a portion of your route, correct?
yes,
All right. Now, you
Yeah,
see where it
Yannetti is
says
heading
Cedar
off.
Crest, right?
yes,
Some of those questions.
And you see the red dot there?
yes.
Does that red dot refresh your memory or orient you, I should say, as to what road that red dot is on?
Yes,
And what road is that?
that would be Fairview.
All right. Now, when you hit Cedar Crest Road, are you in that area of Cedar Crest or are you in a different area of Cedar Crest when you first come upon Cedar Crest Road?
When I first come on, I'm coming in at the beginning of Cedar Crest, which is at Dedham Street in Cedar Crest.
Okay. And how long a road is Cedar Crest before you get to the area of Exhibit 49?
I would say that's about a mile and a half.
And how long does it take you to plow Cedar Crest before you get to this area on January 29th of 2022?
About 10 minutes.
All right. How much of that mile and a half or so stretch of road did you plow when you first encountered it?
I plowed the entire street.
If we could zoom out, please. All right? And when you're driving on Cedar Crest Road, are you driving toward that red, Fairview Road that you've identified?
Yep.
Coming in from the right portion of the map or the left portion of the map?
I'm coming from the right side of the map.
All right. And so you start about 1.5 miles down the road to the right, which is off this map, correct?
Correct.
And you say it takes you about 10 minutes to get to the area of Fairview.
Yes.
So would Fairview be on your right or your left when you first encounter it?
On my left.
And when you hit Fairview Road that first time, what do you do?
I go all the way to the very end of Cedar Crest, turn
way?
around in the cul-de-sac, and then head back up towards Fairview.
Okay, so you're passing Fairview on your left,
Yes.
plowing further, and then turning around and plowing back?
Yes.
It's too early.
And when you came back to the intersection of Cedar Crest and Fairview, what did you do?
Early.
I take a right.
Ducky, I hear this too. On your
And
left.
how familiar were you with 34 Fairview Road on that day,
Very, very familiar.
having delivered pizzas there for years?
And then having grown up in that neighborhood.
Were you friendly with the
Right.
Alberts growing up?
Mostly with Chris, but, I was cordial with the boys.
All right. And
I
when
love
you
the way he
entered
said the
Fairview
boys.
Road from Cedar Crest for the first time
we
on
knew
your
each
route,
other.
would 34 Fairview be on your right or your left?
On my right.
And can you give the jury your best estimate of when or what time was it when you first encountered 34 Fairview Road on January 29th of 2022?
About 2:40, 2:45
That would be AM?
a.m.
And when you were passing 34 Fairview Road or encountering it at that point, what did you know about who lived there?
I knew the Alberts lived there, and I knew that Brian Albert was a police officer, first responders.
Now, aside from the lighting on your truck, were you aware of whether there were
that
any
doesn't-
street lights in the...
That doesn't surprise me at all. In the town you grew up in, for those of you that drive around the town that you grew up in, when you were growing up, as you get older, it's like, oh, I still do this when I go to where I grew up. It's like, oh, that's so-and-so's parents' house. Oh, that's where so-and-so lived while we were in 7th grade and I used to ride my bike over there. Like, it just becomes a part of your memory of the area. It doesn't surprise me at all that he's just like, oh, the Alberts live there. Oh, the chief of police lives there. Oh, it's like, it just makes so much sense to me that it's something that your brain just kind of does all the time. Oh, that's where so-and-so lives. That's where so-and-so lives. I like their dog. Like, all the time. It just makes I don't know if they'll get into it on cross, like, oh, you're paying attention to where the Alberts live. It's like, no, it's just kind of in your brain that's where everybody is. You just, even when people have long since moved, it's like, oh, yeah, I remember going over there and playing Nintendo when I was in 6th grade. Whatever it is, again, it's the way our brains operate. It's not paying special attention.
The area of 34
We'll see.
Fairview.
Yes.
Could you describe those?
Sure, there's one before you get to 34 Fairview driveway, and there's one after Fairview's driveway.
Do you have a memory as to whether or not those streetlights were working on January 29th of 2022?
I do not have a memory of that.
But in any case, how much of the lighting of your Frankentruck was illuminated
That's
at that
fair.
time?
All my lights were working.
So you're now driving up Fairview Road, and 34 Fairview's on your right. Taking into account the lighting conditions that existed, especially on your truck, how much of the front lawn of 34 Fairview could you see?
I could see all the way to the front door.
What obstructions were there at the time when you first passed the Alberts residence?
None.
Were you familiar with the area of the flagpole on the left side of the property?
Yes.
Now, when you are plowing, sir, where is your attention focused?
My attention's focused out the front window, to the right and to the left.
Why?
I am looking for pedestrians. I'm looking for residents that may be backing out, not aware that I'm there, and God forbid, animals.
How much of the time that you're plowing are you scanning the road?
All the time.
Now, as you're passing 34 Fairview, could you see the area of the flagpole at 2:45 in the morning, sir?
Yes.
What was on the ground on the Alberts lawn at that point in the area of the flagpole?
Nothing.
Did you see a 6'1", 216-pound man lying on that lawn?
No.
Right.
Now, after plowing Fairview with the Alberts residence to your right, what do you do?
Right.
I go to the very end, take a left on the Chapman Street, back down Chapman Street, and then take a left back onto Fairview.
And are you plowing the whole time?
Yes.
So you get to, in this diagram, Exhibit 49, we don't have to turn the lights off. I think we can see it. You're
Also, for
traveling
everyone in the
a
chat,
down-
all of you have said it's going to be onwards of 90 degrees in Massachusetts today. So I am sure it is hot in that courtroom as it has been other days. But again, you're looking specifically for anyone backing out and for animals running into the road because you definitely don't want to hit a deer or anything with your plow. So I'm not surprised that he's talking about constantly scanning to see if anything's coming into the road from the sides. This is the reason he was called to testify. Did you see anyone on the lawn? No. And you're looking because all the other witnesses who didn't see John O'Keefe, and in this case, only a few of them have been called, said they were paying attention to kind of scooting out in the snow to their cars and weren't really paying attention. This is the witness that was paying attention because it's his job. I'm paying attention to what's happening. I'm paying attention to what's on the lawn. And I can see all the way to the front door. And I'm familiar with that house. And there's nothing out of place there.
Direction, correct?
Correct.
And
It's a great
you would
point.
hit
Ashley in the chat
Chapman
said,
Street.
and
Is that fair
sober.
to say that's at the bottom?
Correct.
Do some type of three-point turn and go
It's an
back
excellent
down
point.
Fairview?
Yes.
How long does it take you to get from 34 Fairview the first time?
All of you in the chat and
to get
sober.
to the
Yes.
to Chapman Street?
Maybe 5-10 minutes.
And then how long does it take you to get from Chapman Street back down so that you're now passing 34 Fairview again?
Again, about 5-10 minutes.
And when you're coming back down, what side of the road is 34 Fairview?
On my left.
When you pass 34 Fairview at that time, are there any obstructions preventing you from seeing the front lawn?
None.
Was there any difference in the lighting on your truck when you were coming back down?
No.
Where is your attention focused when you're passing 34 Fairview on your left?
Again, out the front, right and left.
And how much of that front lawn are you able to see on 34 Fairview when you're coming back down from Chapman?
I can see everything. I can see right up to the front door.
What did you see on the front lawn of 34 Fairview on January 29th of
Snow.
2022 when you're making the second pass by 34 Fairview in the area of the flagpole?
I saw nothing.
All right. Now, you've made an up and down pass, sir, correct?
Yes.
Once you pass 34 Fairview for that first up and down pass, where do you go?
I then go do Spring Lane, and I do that top and bottom.
And is there a point in time when you come back to the area of Fairview Road?
Yes.
That second time now that you're coming back, I'm counting the up and down pass as the first time.
Okay.
You with me?
Yep.
That second time now that you're coming back, about how long is it after the first time?
About 45 minutes.
So now it's about what time that you're coming for the second time to this area?
3:30.
And when you come back to the area of Fairview Road, the second time, are you on the Cedar Crest side, which is on the top of Exhibit 49, or the Chapman side, which is on the bottom?
The feed just paused itself. I didn't pause it. Emily, do you have something to say? I mean, no, I didn't pause. We were just listening to his testimony. I think this is one of the only witnesses. I'm going to see if it'll unfreeze here in a second. I think this is one of the only witnesses where if they cross-examine him about his timeline,
Take that left, or did you do something else?
I'm not really going to be pressed about it, and here's why. If it's 3:30 or 4:15, it doesn't matter that much to me during a work shift. I'm also time blind, so it probably has a lot to do with me, where in this instance, anything that happened between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., I want to know what happened between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Are we within 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.? Okay, fine. Between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., you didn't see anyone on the lawn and you went by multiple times. Fine. I think timeline will probably come up on cross. I don't quite remember, but yeah. Okay. 3:30, 3:45. Sure. It's his work shift and he's driving. But it's after midnight and before 6 a.m. That's really, for this witness, that's really the thing that matters the most to me. And this is the first time the jury's hearing from someone who is, as the chat has pointed out, sober. Their job is to pay attention to what's going on, not just on the road, but on the sides of the road. And he told you why, which makes complete sense to me. It doesn't feel forced. It feels absolutely logical. And didn't see anyone. What they didn't ask is about the bushes and trees by the flagpole, by the fire hydrant, and whether or not that area doesn't have any light. But the Commonwealth, I don't think, has established how close or far relatively John O'Keefe was to where the bushes and trees were at that property line. I don't know if they'll ask this witness about it. It's something that hasn't been well answered. So we also have a truck that has lights. And from the Commonwealth's witness, John O'Keefe was maybe 7 feet from the street, much closer to the street than we heard last trial. So we'll see if it comes up on cross.
I did not take the left. At that point, I could have taken
The audio video got a little out of sync. If it doesn't fix, I will refresh.
I can make a decision depending on how
that
much
looks a
snow
bit
there
better.
was on the ground. I ended up going all the way to the end as if the first time.
All right, and you did your same turnaround in the cul-de-sac?
Correct.
And now you're approaching the intersection of Cedar Crest and Fairview again, correct?
Yes.
What do?
I take the right onto Fairview.
How was the weather at 3:30 in the morning when you're now in that area of Fairview and Cedar Crest?
It's snowing fairly hard now.
Do you recall how much snow? Recall how much snow was on the ground at that point?
That was the feed. I don't think
Maybe
Yannetti
2-3
glitched.
inches.
And at about 3:30 in the morning, how far could you see in front of you?
I was saying Yannetti glitched. He was talking about how much snow was on the ground, so I'm going to back up real quick.
Maybe 2-3 inches.
And at about 3:30 in the morning, how far could you see in front of you, again, straight and diagonally in front of you,
As far as my eyes would let me see.
as a result of the lighting on your truck?
Correct.
Now, you take the right onto Fairview. Describe for the jury what you see in the road at that point.
As I make my right onto Fairview, I notice that there's a vehicle on the right-hand side, roughly in the area of the flagpole, in front of 34 Fairview.
Okay. And did you make note of what type of vehicle that was?
Yes,
What type of vehicle was that?
a Ford Edge.
What direction was that vehicle parked when you saw it?
It was parked nose going up Fairview.
Toward Chapman?
Yes,
So you're coming up from behind it?
correct.
Do you see the rear of that vehicle?
Yes.
And was it parked adjacent to the Albert property, or was it a...
By the relative shock in the chat of everyone who has not seen this trial before, I would just like to commend chat for being bae and not spoiling this testimony coming in. Because for all of you that are watching the trial for the first time, I'm seeing a lot of you saying, WTF, what do you mean? OMG, wait, what? We'll talk more about the Ford Edge. Chat, thank you. See, isn't it nice to watch everybody be surprised? Right. Everybody's like, wait. What?
across the street from the Albert property?
Adjacent to the Albert family.
And how close to the area of the flagpole was that Ford Edge parked at 3:30 in the morning?
I can't give you an exact measurement, but looking at the front door, it was about 3 feet to the left of the front door in the area of the flagpole, so in between the front door and the flagpole.
Now, what caused you to remember that there was a Ford Edge parked at 3:30 outside the Albert's residence that night?
For as long as I can remember, they have never parked a vehicle in front of their house. They've always had enough ample parking in the driveway.
What policies or protocols of the DPW?
We've seen the photos. It's a huge fucking driveway. You can park multiple cars across. Right. A lot of you are saying, I forgot about the Ford Edge. Don't try to get the answers about the Ford Edge. We're going to wait. We're going to wait for it to develop the Ford Edge. But they had multiple cars parked across the driveway and multiple cars down the driveway from the photos that we saw. They have a pretty big driveway. So in all of his time delivering pizzas, plowing, he's never seen a car parked in front of the home. Why would a car be parking on, why would the car parking on the street be noticeable and a big deal to this driver? Well, those of you who live in snow can go ahead and explain in the chat, because there's a whole fuck ton of rules. For those of you that live in areas where garbage day is like the thing where you can't park your car, right? When the plows come through, your car is not supposed to be in the street, and they're going to get into that now and what you're supposed to do, because your car can't be on the street.
You are in force when vehicles are parked on the street or the road during a snow emergency.
There is no parking allowed. We are supposed to notify our supervisor when there is a vehicle in the way. At that point, the supervisor will make attempt to call the resident or have the police show up at the resident. And then if they can't get the car...
If you are curious about whether or not Canton is a relatively small town, the DPW supervisor will call the resident and ask them to move their car before calling the police. This does not happen on Street Sweeper Day in Los Angeles. Nope. We'll call the resident and be like, Bob, move your car. For fuck's sake, you knew it was going to snow. I just imagine that's how that call goes. It probably doesn't, but I imagine in my head that's how that call goes. They call the resident and ask them to move the car and then call law enforcement.
Car removed, the car gets...
And then they'll call law enforcement to tow the car.
When there is a vehicle in the way, at that point, the supervisor will make attempt to call the resident or have the police show up at the resident. And then if they can't get the car removed, the car gets towed.
Sir, did you follow protocol that night?
I did not.
Why not?
Knowing the Albert family, knowing that there was a first responder, I gave them respect and opted not to follow procedures.
How did the presence of that Ford Edge parked on the side of the road affect your direction of travel?
I had to go around the vehicle.
How did you maneuver around it?
I had to maneuver to the left, go up, and then maneuver back right into my lane, and then continue up Fairview.
And at any point when you were maneuvering to the left and then angling back to the right. Could you see part of the front lawn of the Alberts?
Yes.
Were you able to see any part of the area around the flagpole?
Yes, as I maneuvered back right.
And when you maneuvered back right and saw that area, what, if anything, did you see on the ground in the area of the flagpole?
I saw nothing.
All right. So
Right. He's trying to do the Alberts a solid. He's trying to do the Alberts a solid. He's like, I'm not going to call my supervisor. It's fine. We'll plow around it. But he's never seen them park the car there. I don't remember that testimony from last time. Never seen a car parked on the street. The car's parked on the street and he had to plow around it. We didn't hear anyone else talk about the fact that it looked like a car had been there and the plow went around it. I don't know if they replowed the streets later. I hope he asked, because by the time that Karen Reed and everybody pulls up, there's no conversation that there's any kind of berm, because that's exactly where Carrie Roberts pulls up near the flagpole. It's right in that same area. I can't say exactly, that's hyperbolic. It's right in that same area near the flagpole where Carrie Roberts pulls up in the morning. So I'm curious to see if they talk about, I mean, I don't know. Is 2 to 3 inches of snow creating much of a berm? Probably not. Would they just drive over it because visibility was so bad? Probably, but I don't live in snow. This jury does. So they're going to know that better than I would.
now you've passed 34 Fairview again. Where do you go?
I go back to the top of Chapman, and again I do a left and a right and head back down Fairview.
Another 3-point turn.
Correct.
So now you're doing your second up and down, correct?
Correct.
All right, so you then enter Fairview again, coming back down from Chapman. And how long does it take you to get back down to the area of 34 Fairview?
Again, about 5-10 minutes.
Now, you are now approaching 34 Fairview, and it's on your right or your left this time.
Again, it's on my left.
What, if anything, did you see in the road at that point?
Again, I saw the Ford Edge in the road.
Now it's on your left side?
Yes.
Did it appear to be in the identical position as when you came up the street toward Chapman?
Yes.
How much of the area of the flagpole were you able to see this time as you're coming back down from Chapman?
I was able, it was obstructed, so I wasn't able to see as much as the first time, but I was still able to see the flagpole.
What did you see on the ground in the area of the flagpole at now 3:35, 3:40 in the morning?
I saw nothing.
All right, so now you've done your second up and down pass, correct?
Correct.
Where do you go?
I go back out on the Cedar Crest and I continue to do the rest of my route.
Now, at this point in time, did you do more of your route or spend more time away than you did between the first and second time?
I did more of my route staying away from Fairview.
And about how long did it take you before you came back to the area of Fairview Road?
About 3 hours.
So what is your best estimate of this third time that you're now approaching Fairview Road?
About 6:15
And that'd be a.m.
a.m.
on January 29th?
Yes.
Now, this time when you approached Fairview Road, did you come from the Cedar Crest side or the Chapman side?
I came from Chapman Street side.
And when you turned, did you turn left or right from Chapman Street to get down to Fairview?
I turned right.
And once you turned right, did something unusual happen?
Yes, I noticed there were blue lights behind me, forcing me to pull over to the side of the road.
Did you recognize the vehicles that had, or vehicle? I didn't ask you if there was more than one, but did you recognize what type of vehicle or vehicles there were?
Yes, they were police vehicles.
Which vehicle was traveling more quickly, the police vehicle or Frankentruck?
The police vehicles.
What were
I
you
wish you
doing
would ask
with
how
your
fast
snowplow
Frankentruck goes.
after the police passed you?
I continued down Fairview.
Coming down Fairview, did you actually lose sight of the police cruiser that had passed
I did.
you? How many side streets are there when you're coming down Fairview from Chapman Street?
3.
What are they?
Wyndham, Old Ridge Hill, and then Carriage Lane.
Old Ridge Hill
Now,
just seems redundant.
You're now coming down Fairview Road.
But nobody
What
asked me
did
to
you
name
notice
streets.
ultimately in front of you in the road?
I noticed the police cars had the road blocked off and preventing me from going to Cedar Crest.
And with regard to the lighting on those police,
They've got a full audio experience as we're talking about police being behind him while he's plowing.
with regard to the lighting
For all of you in the chat asking who owns a Ford Edge, we're going to have to wait till that information comes into evidence because I do not well remember if that came into evidence at all at this point. So we will see what comes in, or we will see if the jury is left to presume it's from the homeowner. We will see. But we know where the Ford Edge is parked.
on those police vehicles as the road was blocked off, could you describe that for the jury?
Sure, they had all their blue lights on, and they were parked blocking the road, the entire road. I couldn't get through.
How well lit was it in the area where the police were?
Very well lit.
So you're now confronted with a blocked road. What do you do?
I turn around at Carriage Lane, and I continue to do that road, and then I exit Carriage Lane and go to the left.
All right, and going to the left would send you back toward Chapman Street, correct?
Correct.
And
A lot of you are
once
saying Jackson
leave
mentioned it in
the
opening.
area of Fairview Road, how long does
truly
it take
don't
you
remember
to
at
come
this point.
back down
He might
to
well have.
Fairview Road to finish the plowing that you didn't do the first time?
As soon as the police were able to leave the area, I was able to finish that area.
Do you recall what time you finished your shift on January 29th?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. I
Okay.
don't remember. I'm sorry.
No worries. Do you remember if it was daylight out at that time?
It was daylight.
I think
Okay,
that's fair
now,
timing for it.
Sir, in the aftermath of
A number of you have said that it was mentioned in opening as a favorite vehicle of the family. Just don't know if we've gotten more specific than that, and I don't remember, but it will be we will see, but it is in opening referred to as a family vehicle that the Albert family at that house drives. For me, I'm not really bothered by who particularly drives the car, if that's one of the cars that the family owns. So we'll see if we get into it more. A lot of you are saying Nicole Albert testified to it, not in this trial. But I think it was mentioned in opening. I don't disbelieve chat. Chat is Bay, and a number of you said he talked about it in opening, but I don't know if it came in more specifically. We'll see. It'll get tied back up. And if we all forget, it has been mentioned in opening to connect to the Alberts, and in closing, it'll be so-and-so said that car is owned by, and then it'll circle it back, which is
that
helpful.
storm, when was the first time you were approached by anybody connected within this investigation on
Very excited
either
for these questions.
side, if you recall?
About 2 weeks.
Who was it that approached you at that time?
First name is Paul, and he described himself as a private investigator for the defense team.
Prior to hearing from the defense private investigator, had you ever heard from anybody from any police department whatsoever?
No,
Do you know who Michael Proctor is?
I do.
I'll allow that.
And did Michael Proctor ever call you or contact you at all in those 2 weeks?
No.
Where did the defense investigator approach you, if you recall?
He approached me at my place of work, which was at the Canton Ice Rink, Metropolis Ice Rink.
And what were you doing at the ice rink?
I was operating the Zamboni.
You drive the Zamboni too?
Now, without telling us what
That's so cool. He's like, yeah, I drive the Zamboni. That's amazing. The defense investigator approached him at work while he was working driving the Zamboni. I am delighted. I am
Did
delighted.
you speak to the defense investigator?
Yes, I did.
And at some point, did you do something with the defense investigator?
Yes, I met him
I hate the way that
for a
question was
second
asked.
time at the Kennedy School, and then we both drove my route.
Skipping ahead to the next year, sir, 2020.
You know the crowd goes wild when he drives the Zamboni, right? He just waves at everybody while driving the Zamboni. There's got to be a song. Like I'm delighted. I am delighted by all of it.
Were you approached by law enforcement officers who were not
Sorry, chat. I realize there's a lot of you that are like, girl, okay, but WTF is a Zamboni. If you've ever seen like an ice hockey game or whatever, it's the machine that smooths the ice back out. And so they drive pretty slow around a hockey rink or a skating rink and smooth out the ice. So it's a whole thing.
police or Massachusetts State Police?
Yes.
Without telling us what you told them,
Marina,
did you
it's
speak to
ADHD.
them?
Yes.
Before speaking to them in 2023, had you ever heard from former Trooper Michael Proctor or anybody from this investigation from the State Police or Canton Police?
No.
At some point, did you hear from?
So those of you who are watching this for the first time, after I distracted everyone about the Zambonis, had anyone ever talked to you from the police or state police? No. I saw how impactful it was yesterday to those of you who were like, oh, so the prosecution called Barrows the first time and didn't call him again? How do you feel about law enforcement never talking to him? Because I remember what happened first trial before he testified. That hasn't happened this trial. So now you're hearing that law enforcement never talked to him at all. Just let me know your thoughts.
From the State Police?
Yes.
I'm going to back that up and let him answer it again.
This investigation from the State Police or Canton?
Back that up just a little more. The only time I didn't back up too much.
Former Trooper Michael Proctor or anybody from this investigation from the State Police or Canton Police?
No.
At some point, did you hear from the State Police?
Yes.
That was after you'd already talked to the defense and to these other law enforcement officers who were not State Police or Canton Police?
Yes.
Remember, when the defense interviews witnesses, those things will get turned over in discovery.
And sir,
So
how
he was
clear
spoken
is
to
your
after he
memory
spoke to the
about
defense?
what you saw or didn't see in the early morning
must
hours
be
of
almost
January
done.
29th of 2022 in the area of 34 Fairview? The first up and down pass, the second up and down pass, and then the third time you came.
Very strong.
I have no further questions. Thank you, sir.
All right, we're into cross-examination. Well, Brennan, are you going to ask questions or are you going to fight with this witness? Because I imagine the
All right,
jury
Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
likes this witness, who is a dude who comes into court because he had a job, he did his job, and what he did or didn't see became relevant later. Jurors do not like it when people are just doing their job and then they get attacked. Because I don't think anybody is sitting here going, this dude wants to be involved. No, this dude did his job. And then they went out and asked him questions about what he saw or didn't see. When people are just doing their job, the juries don't like it when they get attacked. Because literally, doing my job.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Have you and I met before?
No, sir.
This is our first time speaking.
Yes, sir.
Sir, you say that your memory from that night is very strong. Would it be fair to say that before today, you've talked about this case many times?
Yes.
You've interviewed with different law enforcement people as well as civilians and attorneys, haven't you?
Correct.
I have not been one of them.
No, you have not.
And is it fair to say that when you've recounted that night as far as times and what you saw, many times your memory has changed? Is that fair to say?
It has not.
You spoke to a private investigator on behalf of the defense shortly after that night.
Yes.
Was that the first time that you spoke to somebody about what you had seen or not seen?
Yes.
That is the first time?
Yes.
Inevitably, over time, you have given statements to at least 4 different people, correct?
Correct.
And you've testified in court under oath?
Correct.
During the pendency from that night until today, it's fair to say there are many times where you have been intimidated, isn't it?
No.
You've been threatened?
What?
Nope.
What?
You were aware, sir, that you were being threatened by an online blogger to
What?
expose you?
I was not.
What? You've been intimidated? No. You've been threatened? No. You've been intimidated by an online blogger? No. An online blogger was threatening you? No. But are we seeing a pattern of cross-examination? Memory? Did the defense talk to you too much or make you testify about this, what have you? There is multiple cross-examinations now where this is the pattern. Okay, let's hear what he has to say. Look, I don't know what happens off on the interwebs about this case. I stick to what happens in court because oftentimes I don't want to know. I want to see what comes out in court. I don't follow what's going on. I want to be surprised when things come up in court. I found that during the Depp Heard case. It was really nice to be able to watch the case unfold as the jury was watching it unfold. Harder in this case because we've already watched the first trial. It is definitely different in a retrial, but I still don't look for outside information about this case. So I don't know. So thank you, chat, for letting us watch it unfold as we are watching it unfold. I'm interested. His answers have been no, no, no. All the other witnesses who have talked about being harassed have tried to like wedge it into their testimony. This witness is like,
You were aware, sir, that you were being threatened by an online blogger to expose you?
I was not.
You're saying as you sit here today, you have no awareness in the history of this case that you were being threatened by an online blogger?
I was not threatened by an online blogger.
Was the online blogger threatening or saying that he would expose you and tell personal things about you if you weren't helpful?
what?
He was not threatening.
Let's remove the word threatening. Was the person communicating and making clear to you that if you didn't testify in a certain way, there would be some consequence to you? Objection. Can we have a time frame, please? Any time from when you
The objection was vague.
spoke to the private investigator
As to
until
time.
today, were there communications made to you by an online blogger that there would be consequence for you if you didn't testify in a way that was acceptable to them?
No,
You listened, of course, didn't you, to podcasts that were about you?
I did not.
People told you about them.
Yes, they did.
When friends told you about them, you knew who that person was that was making those claims, correct?
Correct.
You were well aware of the person had a very strong and large social media presence.
I didn't know how large or what his presence were, but yes, I knew he had a blog.
Well, you know now because you follow that blogger now, don't you?
I do follow him, yes.
You pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Did you get one for free?
I did not.
And in following that blogger, you know full well the power that person has to get attention from the community to harass, correct?
Yes.
And so during the pendency of this case, not only were you aware
Oh, it's relevant.
that you were being
It's absolutely relevant. I want to hear where it's going, but it is relevant. So for all of you saying, how is it relevant? It's something that can impact his testimony. So I'm very curious to see where this is going, but it is something that can impact his testimony. However, if he perceived he was being threatened, do you start following someone? I don't know. I would imagine that you would creep on them on a sock account to see what they're saying without following them. I imagine you wouldn't follow them. So I'm going to let this play out. I'm very curious about where this all goes and when the last interview with him was that Brennan knows all of this, because I'm curious. But yeah, it can go to his memory. It can go to his testimony. It is absolutely relevant. It's a proper line of questioning. This witness is saying no, 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 no. So we'll continue on.
being pressured.
Because he says, I wasn't threatened. People told me what was said about me. I mean, I imagine almost everyone who testified in the first trial had people online talking about them. So I'm interested in the timeline.
As to get attention from the community to harass, correct?
Yes.
And so during the pendency of this case, not only were you aware that you were being pressured to
That's not what
testify
he said.
a certain way, you also knew there'd be consequences if you didn't. Isn't that true?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
The premise of that question is not accurate.
So he can answer it.
It's been a few days now that the court has said nothing about the defense issuing speaking objections. I haven't really heard the Commonwealth do it, but Brennan is so close to the bench that when he makes objections, sometimes it's hard to see. He generally just says objection. The defense has been stating the grounds for their objections for a couple of days now, and the court has not told them to stop. And the Commonwealth hasn't really said anything about it either. I find it incredibly helpful. I'm pleased personally, but I'm noticing it now that we are seeing those speaking objections consistently, and it's, I think, helpful. The objection was that the premise of the question is not accurate. However, it's cross-examination. So if the premise is not accurate, assumes facts, not evidence is different. But the premise not being accurate, this witness gets to answer that. It's cross. He can say, no, that's absolutely not true.
To testify a certain way, you also knew there'd be consequences if you didn't. Isn't that true?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
The premise of that question is not accurate.
So he can answer it.
You knew there was pressure for you to testify a certain way in this case, didn't you?
I did not know I was being required to testify a certain way. I was also at the time dealing with the loss of my wife.
Oh, sir.
I was not paying any attention to any social media.
It's like, I didn't give a fuck what was going on
Sorry for
online.
your loss, but you are aware during the
Brennan, sorry for your loss, but you were aware. Everything Brennan asked from here is just kind of done. I don't give a fuck what was going on online. I was dealing with the loss of my wife. You know what Brennan's not asking him, noticeably? About his past testimony. You said this, 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 you said this. He's not asking him any of that. You were being threatened online. He said no. I was dealing with grief. I wasn't paying attention to online. Fair. Hey, Brennan, you're going to have to find a new line of questioning after that.
pendency of this case, that there has been pressure on you to testify in a certain way. Isn't that fair to say?
No,
Sir, you received a call from that blogger, didn't you?
I did.
And during that call, did you know the person was recording you?
I did not.
You later
I
learned
don't like
that
that.
the person recorded you.
I did not.
Do you know that your conversations were spread throughout the community online?
I was.
Sir, some of those communications or inquiries were claims that you would be exposed for personal matters if you didn't testify a certain way, weren't they?
No.
Inevitably, you've met this person, haven't you?
I've seen him. I haven't met him.
Have you ever spent time with him?
No, I have not.
You're still a follower of that blog.
I am.
When you follow the blog, do you read anything or do you watch it?
Ask him why. Ask him why. Why do you follow it? Why do you follow it then?
No, I don't do much anything towards the blogger.
As you follow it, you can see there are oftentimes articles about you.
No,
Haven't you ever been encouraged to do the right thing?
no,
Haven't you ever been celebrated?
Where is my record scratch? Brennan, sir, are you insinuating that the words "do the right thing" are a veiled threat? Because I feel like you're insinuating that the words "do the right thing" are a wink and a threat. Didn't we just go over this with another witness like 2 days ago? If I am misremembering, please let me know, but I think I have this correct, and I might have created a false memory here because I still don't know if it was weirdly or wildly long period of time that anyone may or may not have been in the Sallyport, but would an online blogger or the commissioner of Boston PD, who is your boss, be more persuasive in the equation of do the right thing? Because a couple days ago, I think we learned that do the right thing meant just tell the truth. I thought that's where we were at with just do the right thing. I thought it just meant get up there and tell the truth. Are you insinuating, Hank, something nefarious with do the right thing? How the fuck are you arguing out of both sides of your mouth in like a 2-day proximity? Is it a veiled threat for testify how we want you to? Or is it just get up there and tell the truth? What is this line of questioning? It's like he just memory wipes at the end of every day and starts each thing anew with no context. Do you think the jury's sitting there going, do the right thing? Oh, where have we heard that before? On Monday, during the wildest testimony to maybe ever grace a courtroom. Or weirdest. Pick your parlance. I can't believe that this is the question he is asking in court with like dead ass seriousness. I mean, have some fucking consistency. How do you have any credibility when you go to argue when one thing means one thing in one context and one thing means one thing in a different context? How do you argue when things mean same thing means different things depending on which witness it is? How do you argue that? Just all of the side eye. And if you haven't watched Officer Devers' testimony, it was on Monday, it's timestamped. I can't believe he's asking this question. The exact same words. What? Do you think Jackson knew? Is there a report somewhere that says this witness says that he was told to do the right thing? Do you think when Jackson was asking Dever about all the do the right thing questions that he also knew that this witness was coming and that that statement would also come up? I'm so curious. I had to back this up. What the fuck is, what? Brennan, All right, bold strategy. Let's see how it works out.
Much anything towards the blogger.
As you follow it, you can see there are oftentimes articles about you.
No,
I backed up.
Haven't you ever been encouraged to do the right thing?
no,
Haven't you ever been celebrated after you've testified in a way favorable for one
Yes.
side or the other?
yes,
And so when you were being celebrated, that certainly took off any pressure that would be consequence, didn't it?
Ask it differently.
When you were celebrated for testifying a certain way, did you find that to be encouraging?
I'm going to allow it.
I did find it to be encouraging,
Did
but
you?
I did not want it. I don't think I deserved it. All I was doing was my job and telling the truth.
Who believes
Did
him?
you enjoy the attention that?
One in the chat. Is this ringing 100% true to you? He didn't back away once from any of these answers, which we have seen from so many witnesses. They have backpedaled an answer. Were you celebrated? How would a different witness have answered that? There's nothing nefarious about it. There's nothing untoward about it. They would have answered the insinuation. He didn't answer Brennan's insinuation. He has answered Brennan's question every single time. Were you celebrated? Yes. And then his answer was, and I'm paraphrasing, and it's kind of weird. I was doing my job. I told you about doing my job. I don't think I deserve it. I think it's, who knows about that online anyway. I got other shit going on in my life. I didn't ask for it. I didn't want it. I don't think I deserve it. I don't want to be celebrated. I just was doing my job. And this is what I saw or didn't see. But did not back away at all from, were you celebrated? He's like, yeah, I was. Okay. And the whole chat is just like 100% believe him because of the way he's answering. Right.
I did not.
Did you pose in photographs with people who support one side or the other?
I did.
And when you were in those photographs, are you saying that you didn't enjoy the attention that you were receiving?
I did not. Again, I was trying to be polite and trying to avoid any confrontation that may come from something if I said no.
Well, did anybody from the district attorney's office ever suggest they would confront you or punish you if you didn't testify a certain way?
No.
How many times, how many friends contacted you about what was being said before you testified, the pressure? How many people told you about that?
I couldn't tell you. All my friends were telling me.
So you were hearing a lot of noise or information from your friend group and community about what was being said about you?
Yes.
Good friends. Those are good friends. I'm not being
And
sarcastic.
this-
Those are good friends.
Was before you testified at the first trial, sir?
This was before.
Sir, you
I think the jury knows there was a first trial now because Brennan has said it. Everybody else has said it. Everyone else has said it. His friends were telling him what was being said about him online. Right. And Brennan's like, so before the first trial?
you work hard, don't you?
I do.
You work many different jobs.
I do.
You try to be a good citizen.
I do.
You are not looking for attention.
I am not.
It was brought to you.
It was brought to me.
You wish you never had that attention, don't you?
Seems pretty
Yes.
clear.
Because you just want to live your life the way you want to live it
He was
rather than have
just doing
people
his
you
job.
don't know attacking, criticizing, or intimidating you.
He didn't say that.
I'll allow that.
Could you repeat that, please?
It's also compound.
Would it be fair to say that you simply want to live your life the way you've been living it without outside people attacking or pressuring or threatening you?
Yes.
On June 15, 2023, you were contacted by the defense private investigator, weren't you? And you may not know the dates. Were you contacted twice by the private investigator?
Did that line of questioning change anything for you except making you like this witness more? Did that entire line of questioning do anything but make this witness more sympathetic? It just doubled down on, I'm just doing my job. Right.
Investigator?
I would need to know what time frame we're looking at.
Fair enough. By the way, the blogger that I speak of.
Oh, is he in
Do
court?
you know if he is friendly or supports one side over the other?
I know he is friendly towards one side, yes.
Okay. The side sitting in the back of the room?
Just ask.
I would say
Just ask if he's friendly with the defendant.
the defense team.
You're there. Just ask the question. This witness isn't hiding from those answers. He's friendly with the defense team. Okay.
It's one side, yes.
Okay. The side sitting in the back of the room?
I would say the defense team.
You've interacted with a private investigator hired by the defense?
Yes.
Have you also interacted with any of the attorneys?
Yes.
Which attorneys have you interacted with?
Mr. Yannetti.
Have you contacted or have you spoken to any other attorneys other than Mr. Yannetti?
Just Mr. Yannetti.
How many times have you spoken to Mr. Yannetti?
Again, what are we talking? First trial, this trial?
The entire time from that night until today. Can you remember how many times that you've
About
spoken?
5 times.
How many
He can't
times have
remember.
you gone in to be interviewed by him?
4 times?
During those interviews, were they spaced out over the course of this case?
Yes.
What was the purpose of those interviews?
To go over my testimony.
When you went over testimony, were you ever shown prior testimony?
Yes.
Were you shown prior reports?
No.
Were you shown a prior investigator's report?
Yes.
Were you shown a prior report by a law enforcement agency that is not the state police and not Canton?
Not by Mr. Yannetti. I saw that first document for the first time during the first trial.
When you were discussing your testimony,
Shit's just all the way out of the horse on that at this point.
was there a discussion about the fact that the
Day
times
27. No one's trying to pretend anymore.
that you gave the private investigator were different than the report from that law enforcement agency?
Could you repeat that question, please?
When you were preparing the trial in those meetings, was it brought up, did you discuss that there was a difference in your memory, or at least in the reports, between what you told the defense private investigator and what you told that other law enforcement agency?
No.
Were you aware that there was a difference between the different statements attributing your memory as to time?
The first trial, yes.
Differences,
When
he
you
said, as to
were
time.
with the defense preparing.
Chad, every time anyone says other agency, I just hear in my head, well, the FBI. If he was talking about state police, Brennan would say state police. If he was talking about Canton, he would have said Canton. So anytime they say other agency, I just hear FBI because there was a federal investigation. At this point, the jury has heard the FBI of it all. I don't know if they know there was another investigation, but they know other people have talked to the FBI. At some point, I think we'll hear the attorneys argue about that more, I would suspect. Maybe not. But yes, the FBI of it all is every time they say other agency, that's just where my brain goes, because he would name state police or Canton.
Trial, did you go over your testimony?
Yes.
Did you go over questions and answers?
Yes.
Were you ever subjected to a make-pretend cross-examination about issues that were important in this case?
No.
Were you ever pointed to any particular issues that were important to talk about in this case?
No.
When you did the questions and answers, were they written down or just a conversation?
Were you prepped? Yes.
Can you repeat that one, please? I'm sorry.
When you went through the questions and answers,
Yeah, Hank is suspiciously quiet. Every day in court, Hank has been screaming, especially when the fans are on, to the point where I feel like I'm in trouble for commenting on the case. And today, all of a sudden, Hank is just like making the witness work to hear him. And for all of you asking, is there anything wrong with peppering a witness? In the way he's talked about it, no. There is nothing wrong with any of this. You are allowed to prep a witness. Witnesses are prepped. It's more unusual when witnesses are not prepped. And you can generally figure out why they are not. Because they come in and are like, I don't even know why I'm here. Yeah, witnesses are prepped. Okay.
in preparing, practicing for your testimony,
It's not nefarious on either side.
were they written down
So ask it to,
when you were preparing for your testimony? Were the questions and
Both
answers
sides try to make it
written
look
down,
nefarious.
or was it just speaking?
Just speaking.
Those 4 times that you met, is that a guess or was it 4 times?
It was about 4 times, yes.
Could it have been more?
No.
And during those 4 times, was there anything different other than going through questions and answers about testimony and preparation? Was there any other subjects you talked about?
There were none.
Did you ever receive any compensation, sir?
I received none.
Do you know whether
What?
people were sending you compensation that you didn't receive?
What?
You don't know?
I never received anything.
Don't do that. Whatever he's insinuating, don't do that.
Were you given anything to bring home with you so that you could remember past testimony or some of the questions and answers that were going to be asked?
No.
How long were your meetings in preparation for your testimony?
About 45 minutes to an hour?
Were they all about the same time or were they different? When you came into court last year, it's fair to say this is after you became aware of essentially being targeted, correct?
It's not what he said. That misstates
can
testimony.
answer that if you can. Can you answer that, Mr. Loughran?
I can. I don't ever felt like I was being targeted.
Right.
This was after you received all the information from your friends and people in the community that you were being
Ask what his friend said then. Ask what his friend said then.
attacked.
I'll allow that.
Again, I don't feel like I was being targeted.
Are you concerned after this case what happens with the blogger that you follow?
No.
You talked about your
Can you imagine fucking with this witness would go well for anyone? He grew up in Canton. He spent his whole life in Canton. His friend group is in Canton. He works in Canton. His friend group clearly has his back to tell him what's going on. Is this who you would fuck with? No, it just doesn't even make sense. And the jury's got to be sitting there looking at this witness going, he said that that's not what's happening. And you keep trying to make fetch happen. Weird.
meeting with the
Oh, and his brother's a selectman. There's that.
private investigator. The first time you met him, do you remember that meeting?
Yes.
Do you remember where you met him?
I met him at my place of employment.
Did you go anywhere with him that day?
No, I did not.
You had a conversation with him and you spoke about what you had remembered from that night?
Yes.
Do you remember when you spoke to that private investigator, you weren't sure how many times you went up and down Fairview that night? And you had
Does he
said
have a
2 or
Claudia
3?
ring on? Sir, you just made my heart so happy. I think he did. I don't know if I blocked it from y'all, but when he was scratching his eye.
No, I told him I went up at 2:30 at 2. I told him at 3:30 I went up 2. Went up and down. And I told him about 3 hours later I went up and down. Excuse me, I went down and wasn't able to go around the police cruisers and had to turn around at Carriage Lane.
You mentioned that you believe you told the private investigator that you went up and down at 2:30. Do you remember when you spoke to the private investigator, you actually said 3 o'clock?
I don't remember the 3 o'clock.
Do any of you care? And I'm not judging if you do. I genuinely am asking. Does it make a difference to you about what this witness saw, heard, did, or didn't if it was at 3 or 3:30? Does that change anything about his testimony for you? And I realize I've kind of poisoned the well on that because I already said if he's going to go down this line of questioning, I don't really care. Was it after midnight, before 6 a.m.? Great. Was it in that window? That's what I want to know about. Because a variance of a half an hour, one way or the other on a work shift, doesn't really matter to me. If he was not there, that would matter to me. But between midnight and 6 a.m., I'm not pressed about a half hour at all. It just doesn't matter for this witness. 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m., okay. It was dark, you were plowing, and you went by 34 Fairview, and you saw a car, and you didn't see John O'Keefe? The first time there was no car, then there was a car? So the first time there was
May I
no car and you
approach?
could see,
Yes.
and you didn't see anyone in dark clothing on the lawn.
And before I
And then
do,
the
do you
second time you saw a
remember you
car.
said that when you went on your second pass?
And you didn't call it in. I wonder if Brennan will ask if he didn't call it in and why he didn't call it in. He said, I didn't follow procedure. I think it's a trap if Brennan asks, here's why. Because if Brennan says, why didn't you call it in? It's likely that he'll respond, well, it was a car at the Alberts house. I assumed it was one of their cars. I know them. I was just doing them a solid. I plowed around it. It'll be fine. We'll see if Brennan takes the bait on that one.
It was around 3:15?
Oh, no, it's a 15-minute variance.
I told him I went up Fairview between about 2:40 to 2:45, and I said about 45 minutes later, I went for the second time.
Okay. Now, you had said 2:30, and you just now said 2:40 to 2:45, and then you said 45 minutes later.
Well, Brennan,
Yep.
you said, didn't you say 3? And then you said, oh, didn't you say 3:15? So, you, okay. Okay, Brennan.
Do you remember
You
telling the
also
private
misstated
investigator that when you think, or you said you saw a Ford Edge, you were actually still on Cedar Brook, not on Fairview, passing by it, but you saw it from the street at Cedar Brook? Do you remember telling him that?
I
Sorry,
don't remember.
Cedar Crest.
Secret. I don't remember ever saying that.
Emily, stop eating.
May I
Start
approach?
eating your breakfast.
Yes.
I have lots to do today. Brennan's showing the defense and approaching.
For your
Again,
copy, this is a report that you didn't write, so I don't want you to read it. I want to show it to you and see if it helps remind you of what you told the private investigator that day.
everybody's got their
Look at
readers
part
on.
of
I'm here
this,
for
what
it.
I'm asking you,
I have to take mine off to read better.
whether or not you remember telling the private investigator that when you saw the car, you weren't passing on Fairview, you were up on Cedar Crest. That's the question I'm asking. So I'd ask you to look at whatever part you want.
Brennan saying, I want to ask you, the first time you saw the car, do you remember saying the first time you saw the car on Fairview was when you were passing Fairview on Cedar Crest, not when you were driving down Fairview? The first time you saw the car. Again, so you saw the car multiple times on Fairview?
But I'm going to point out the part to you. When you're done, don't answer, just look up, and then I'll get to ask you some questions about remembering, okay?
Okay.
So, I've directed...
Look
this
at Brennan's
part-
demeanor is a whole different vibe at this moment. Brennan, did you look over at the jury? Were they scowling at you? Because your demeanor's an entirely different demeanor. And yes, you can generally read the faces of the jury on how they like what you are doing or not doing, even if it's just everybody with a furrowed brow. Because his demeanor changed. To all the new members, welcome. To everyone who is asking, Emily, why is the chat not slower? It's on slow mode. There's a lot of y'all. There's almost 50,000 of you in here and a lot of members, so thank you. Chronic Truck, thank you for the memberships and happy
Are you
birthday.
done, sir?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Jennifer Holmes asked
Sir, do
me.
you now remember when you speak
I'm
to
sorry,
the
Brennan.
defense?
Jennifer's asking me critical questions in the chat. We're going to answer this because it's critical. Jennifer Holmes said, EDB opinion, SPAC all banned or Big Sky Dave only, help decide. I have never been to SPAC. SPAC's kind of East Coast Dave Mecca, and I am a huge fan of all band. If you've been looking at the set list that they've been playing this summer, Fire, I am a stan for the entire band. I love Stefan. I love Rashawn. Rashawn is singing this tour. Like, SPAC is iconic, full band, but Big Sky is gorgeous. So, I mean, I'm kind of in the YOLO and you might just need both. But if I had to pick one, probably SPAC if it was the easier travel.
Investigator about seeing a car. You said that about 3:30 to 4 a.m. when you were plowing Cedar Crest Road, you looked toward Fairview Road and saw a small SUV parked in front of the house. Remember telling the PI that?
I never remember telling him that.
Okay.
When you spoke
I
to
don't
law
remember
enforcement,
telling
not the Canton police
the
or the
PI
state
that.
police,
Okay.
you understood it was important to be as accurate as possible?
Yes.
And you understood, at least with that law enforcement agency, if you misled them in any way, it could be up to a 10-year penalty?
Yes.
When you spoke
Ask Sherry Papini about it. And apparently it's not, because Dever said, no, I just called them and told them it was a mistake. We've had multiple witnesses say, no, I talked to that other agency and then I told them I didn't remember. Though Dever, it seems, did endeavor to reach out affirmatively and correct things, where Jen McCabe reached out affirmatively too and said, just kidding, it wasn't just the few phone calls, it was a lot more.
spoke to them, did you take that interview very seriously?
Yes.
Tried to be as precise and accurate as you could?
I bet he took
Yes.
all of them.
And when you spoke to them, obviously, like anybody, you had in mind that there could be serious consequences if they felt misled.
Yes.
You try to be honest with them,
Yes.
provide them your best memory in good faith.
Yes.
And this was shortly before, well, actually, this was May 24th, 2023, correct?
Correct.
When you met, there was more than one person there from this agency?
I believe so.
Was there potentially two?
There was two.
And when you met with them, they asked you about when you began working that night.
Yes.
You told them 11:30 to midnight.
I never told him that.
And so as you sit here today, your memory is you did not tell those law enforcement agents that you began work at 11:30 to 12?
We had a 2:30 start time.
I understand, but I'm asking you,
I never
He
told
said
him.
he never told them that.
It was always 2:30 start time.
when you spoke to them, do you remember telling them the first time you were out near the
Show them the report then. Show them the report then. The jury knows how this game works. The jury knows how this works. You didn't tell them this, and then you show them the report. Brennan often doesn't. And he's been caught a couple times where it's like, oh, that's not in the report, it's this. Show them the report then.
area was midnight?
Nope. No.
When you spoke to those law enforcement
Nope is
personnel, were
acceptable
they
in
taking notes?
in our parlance.
I believe so.
Have you ever
If I can
seen
find my
their
soundbite.
report?
The first trial I did, yes.
Who showed you that report?
It was shown to me by Prosecutor Lally.
You think Prosecutor Lally showed you that report?
No, he doesn't
was
think
shown
it.
to
He
me.
told you that.
And do you remember telling those two law enforcement personnel that you believe that they were emergency vehicles? And
Do you think the jury's like, oh, so Prosecutor Lally knew you existed and we didn't hear from you in the case in chief? Weird.
ambulances or police cars in front of Fairview at 3 to 3:30 a.m.?
I do not.
Are you saying that you did not say these things to them, or are you saying that that's not your memory?
That's not what I said.
And so you're saying that's wrong. You're denying
Correct.
you made those statements.
Okay, show him the
Correct.
report. Show him the report.
At the time they say that you told them there was emergency vehicles there at 3 a.m. That is the same time that you told the PI that you saw the Ford Edge around 3:30 to 4, correct?
About 3:30 is when I saw the Ford Edge.
It was dark out that night, wasn't it?
Correct.
There are no street lights down near that flagpole area of 34 Fairview, is there?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
It's on the other side of the street. I think this is why they brought in the photos this time of the lights on the truck. They did not have photos of the Frankentruck last trial. I think it's the defense anticipated this line of questioning. There's no street light there. No, sir. There's a fucking snowplow with like 3 different types of lights.
Okay. Was it on that night?
I can't tell you honestly if it was.
You
My
testified
lights
at
are too
trial.
bright.
I'm sorry, at a proceeding last year?
I testified that there were. It was asked to me that there were not any streetlights, and I answered it in the affirmative way. And living in that neighborhood, I saw that there were actual streetlights.
You testified at a proceeding last year, didn't you?
Yes,
When you testified at the proceeding, did you meet anybody from the defense close in time to that proceeding?
I don't know, when we met, or how close to the proceedings it was.
Do you remember being prepared before you went into trial last time?
Yes,
By?
by Yannetti, excuse me.
It's okay, sir. It's stressful.
Do you remember telling the defense private investigator that you made your final pass at 6:30 a.m.?
I remember I told him it was about 3 hours going down Cedar Crest and was not able to go to the end of Fairview due to the first responders.
At trial last year, do you remember saying it was 5:30?
I did,
And today you had said about 6:15.
yes.
What I recall from that testimony, and I don't know if they'll show him the transcript, but what I recall from that testimony is it was a start time and then like 10 minutes or 15 minutes after this, 30 minutes after that, 3 hours after that, it was like this. It was hard for me to follow the timing because it was like, well, I can't math in my head, but it was like 30 minutes after this and then 45 minutes after this. And so when they got to, so what time was your final pass? I was so confused because they didn't pin it to time. It was just all counting up from the start time. And again, the thing that's more important to me is you didn't finish your final pass because there were first responders on the street. Okay, that narrows the window of time. We know when first responders were on the street. There's video of that.
You weren't timing anything on a watch for times, were you?
I was not.
You were not accounting in any way for time whatsoever when you were out that night, were you?
No, I was not.
Right.
When you're providing times, are you trying to use your best memory?
Yes,
Do you recognize that you have a differing memory on times of what you did that night?
no.
Does it matter
You
to
talked
any
about
of
your
you?
view from the tow truck and that you have a bunch of lights on it. On
That's
the
my
tow
question.
truck, you had mentioned that your vision to the side was 5 to 6 feet.
All of you are like, no, it doesn't matter at all.
Can you rephrase that, please?
Yes, of course. You said when you were driving your tow truck, you could see forward and sideways.
Okay. I don't want to be. I don't drive a tow truck.
My apologies.
Brennan, I did it too. I did it the other day. And I have chat. Brennan doesn't have chat. I did it the other day and I was like, tow truck, plow truck. I I don't fucking know. I empathize with Brennan in this moment of like, tow truck, plow truck, 27 days of trial. So he was like, I don't want to be rude, but I don't drive a tow truck. Like, and you can see him being like, I don't want to, you can see him not wanting to push back on Brennan, but being like, that's not right. Like you can see it concerning him. He doesn't want to. He's not clapping back at Brennan at all. There's no, I don't drive a tow truck. It's just like, I want to answer the question, but I don't drive a tow truck. Like he's like,
See forward and sideways.
Okay. I don't want to be. I don't drive a tow truck.
My apologies. My apologies. A snow plow.
Thank
You
you.
said you can see forward and sideways.
I can see forward, I can see diagonal, and I can see right to left.
When you look right to left, you said you could see about 5 feet.
Correct.
Do the lighting conditions affect how well you can see?
No.
I bring
Does the
my own
weather-
light.
Yes.
When you're plowing, are you ever looking at the street in front of you?
Yes.
Are you looking at people's front yards?
Yes.
And so, what did you see as far as the front door of the Albert House that night? Was it open or closed?
It was closed.
With lights on?
I can't answer that for sure. I don't remember if there were lights on.
How about the
glad he asked
neighbors
that.
on the left? Were you looking at their front line?
Yes.
Did you see if their lights were on?
Again, I didn't recognize if their lights were on.
Do you look at every neighbor's front lawn up to the door as you're driving in the snow plowing?
I look to the right and to the left, and my eyes will graze to the yard. Yes, I will look there.
You were saying you have a specific
Any of you that drive in areas where wildlife tends to run into the road, and this might be different for those of you that don't drive in areas where wildlife will run into the road because it changed for me. I have noticed I am so much more mindful of especially open spaces on the side of the road when I am driving, especially depending on time of day, that if there are open spaces, I am looking out over those open spaces to make sure nothing is running in my direction. A, because I can't deal with the trauma of hitting animals either. And B, I would really like to avoid that circumstance, and I will 100% beep, put on my brakes, and do all the things you're probably not supposed to do. But this jury lives in Massachusetts. They know exactly what this is. Do you always look up to the door? Yeah, I'm driving slow, making sure nothing's coming. That's not weird.
memory of looking at the Albert front yard all the way to the door. Do you have a specific memory of looking at the other neighbors' yards to their door?
That's a fair question.
Can you repeat that, please? I'm sorry.
Yes, you said that you looked at the Albert house all the way to the door.
Correct.
Do you have a memory of looking at any other houses all the way to the door?
Yes.
Okay. Which house had a dumpster in front of it?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to a dumpster. Dumpster wouldn't be in the front yard.
Are you sure on your route there was no dumpsters in anybody's front yard?
I can tell you there was a dumpster this week.
I'm more interested in January 29, 2020.
I can't answer to that. I don't remember.
A dumpster of 15 by 20.
So at this point, are you sitting there thinking, hey, he doesn't remember seeing a dumpster January 29th, 2022? Or are you asking yourself, you know, maybe he would have remembered if somebody had, I don't know, asked him then? Because the defense questioned him 2 weeks after this happened. And he's like, yeah, there's a dumpster on my route this week. Maybe if they had asked him within a week or two, he would have known. Funny that.
20-foot dumpster, that would be bigger than a man's body, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would be.
And so you have no really specific memory of the other homes in the neighborhood that night?
I would have
I
then.
mean, I looked. I saw. I didn't see a dumpster that would have definitely stuck out.
Okay. You said
If
you
somebody had asked me
had
about it
vision
then,
as
I might
far
have
as
been
your
able to
eyes
tell you.
could see.
Correct.
What does that mean?
Means if there were, my eyes were, as long as they're open, I can see as far as they will let me see.
Is that dependent on lighting conditions, darkness, snow?
Correct.
That night, did you have any difficulty paying attention or driving?
I did not.
Did you have a small accident that night?
I did.
Okay, what did you hit?
I hit a portable basketball net.
Was that part because of the weather conditions? You didn't have a good opportunity to see it?
No. I definitely saw it and just did not judge enough.
So depth perception. Fair enough.
You said that you went up and down the road a couple of times. When you were asked to describe the car that you said you saw, when you first spoke to the defendant's private investigator, you didn't give any detail about the type of car, did you?
I told her it was a Ford Edge.
Okay. When you first spoke to the investigator, you used the words Ford Edge?
I did.
Did they bring you to a parking lot at some point?
They did.
And when they brought you to a parking lot, did they have you go out in the parking lot and look at a Ford Edge?
They did.
And when they had you go out and look at the Ford Edge, did they have you identify that as the type of car?
Yes, they did.
And when you did that, how many cars were in the parking lot?
We had a hockey game, so there were several, at least 100, 150.
Who pointed you to the Ford Edge?
I pointed to it.
Did the investigator take you to the Ford Edge?
No, he did not.
It was just an open parking lot, and he asked you to look around to see if there happened to be a similar car?
No, I told him a Ford Edge. He wanted to make sure I knew what a Ford Edge looked like. I pointed to the Ford Edge, and he was
Like
satisfied.
that.
So after you said a Ford Edge, he brought you to a parking lot to point out a car?
We were at my place of business. We just walked out the door.
Where was that?
At the Metropolis ice rink.
The rink?
Ice rink, yes.
Did you then meet the investigator later on at a school?
Yes, I did.
And who did you meet at the school?
I met Paul again.
And
That's
what
what he
was the
said.
purpose of that?
He wanted to go through my route.
You want to go through your route?
That's what
Correct.
he said. He
And then,
followed me down my
Did
route.
you choose to meet at the school?
I did.
You did?
I did.
And why did you choose the school?
It was an easier landmark for the gentleman to get to, and it was minutes from my route.
Did you know that former Trooper Proctor's sister worked there?
I had no idea.
You said last year that when you went by Fairview, did you say that you would buy your final pass at 5:30 a.m.?
You already asked him this.
No.
Okay.
Also, he said worked there, not works there. He said multiple times he didn't say his last pass was at 5:30. If his last pass was at 5:30, he wouldn't have seen law enforcement, would he? I don't disbelieve that his route was cut off by law enforcement blocking the street. So
May I approach?
even
Yes.
if he said 5:30, he also said, I'm not watching my clock every single minute. The road was blocked. Okay.
Sir, when you have contact, you also wear reading glasses?
Yes. I can't read things up close.
Understood.
Same.
This is
Especially not with the contacts in. You
trial
put the
testimony Friday, June.
you put the contacts in, then you need the reading glasses.
Testimony from June 21st, 2024. And you were asked
This is testimony from June 21st,
Do you
2024.
recall what time it was that you wound up back on Fairview? You said, I don't honestly recall what specific time. Yes?
Yes.
And then you were asked, sure. Approximately, if it was 3:15 to 3:30, that second time, what would be your best estimate of the time when you came back? And what did you say?
3 hours later. Because earlier he said 3 hours later.
Say about 5:30.
And
so
today
even
he said about
last year
5:30
you were having
later.
some difficulty
Or 3 hours
remembering
later.
the times, right?
Christine.
Were you having difficulty last year remembering the times that you were on Fairview?
No,
When you said you were on Fairview last year at 5:30, you didn't see anything on the Albert front lawn at 5:30 a.m.?
I wasn't on Fairview at 5:30 a.m.
Okay. Were you asked last year about...
Honestly, unless Brennan's going to bring in work logs to show he wasn't working that day, he said the time is estimated. I think in this circumstance, it's not a serve.
your travels on Fairview?
Yes,
Okay, when you asked about, you recall, it was time you wound up on Fairview, and you said you didn't remember. Do you remember that testimony?
I do.
And is that true testimony?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so you had some difficulties in your memory of when you were on Fairview when you testified last year. Isn't that fair to say?
No, it's not fair.
And then you were asked approximately, if it was 3:15 to 3:30 the second time, what time did you come back?
And I said, if I were to guess, I said 45 minutes later.
Did you say, I would say, if I had to say, it would have been 5:30 up Fairview?
That time was incorrect. It was 6:15. I couldn't go down any further due to the police presence.
So your testimony last year, you understandably made a mistake about the time, correct?
I did.
And
Okay.
it's true, isn't it, that you really have somewhat foggy memory about the times.
It is not.
That time of 5:30 is very different than the time you told the agents when you met them. I'm sorry, the law enforcement officials that weren't from Canton or the state police.
The agents, not the other agency, not the other law enforcement, the agents. He put so much emphasis on that word. The jury doesn't think they're the men in black at this point. He's like, I'm sorry. Other law enforcement, not can it. Good Lord.
That was very different than when you told them 3 to 3:30.
Very different.
And it's different than the 3:30 to 4 timeline that you gave the defense private investigator the first time you spoke to them. Correct?
Correct.
And it's different than what you told the jury today, that it was 6:15.
It's different, but it's not.
He's also said there were multiple passes.
When you plowed that night, did you have any reason to look for somebody who was lying on the side of a yard?
No.
Did you have any expectation somebody would be lying helpless on the side of a yard that night?
No.
If you had seen somebody, certainly you would have helped.
Correct.
When you said that, when the private investigator asked you where you were when you said you saw the Fort Edge, are you saying that you didn't tell the private investigator that you were on Cedar?
I don't remember telling him I was on Cedar Crest. I do remember telling him that I had turned onto Fairview and saw the vehicle.
Cedar Crest in a storm at night is quite a distance from the flagpole at Fairview, isn't it?
No.
About 300 feet?
Roughly.
Difficult to see under those conditions?
No.
Could we have Exhibit 71, Stream 0, at about 6:17 a.m., please?
The snow conditions aren't the same, though. I'm going to zoom where they're pulling up the what I assume to be dash cam video.
You see that street light? Could you stop it there? You see that street light?
I do.
Okay. At the end of that road, past the street light, is Cedar Crest, correct?
Correct.
Is that a fair depiction of the elements that night around that time?
Yes.
And in this case, there's
Okay.
further illumination with the car that's facing us.
Correct.
That wasn't there, was it?
No, he was in a snow.
Correct.
You said after you saw law enforcement, did you come down Fairview after you saw law enforcement?
I was on Fairview already when I saw the law enforcement.
Did you drive by Cedar Crest again to go back and forth and watch what was going on, or did you go on your route?
I went on my route, which included Cedar Crest.
Did you keep driving by because you wanted to watch, or did you just leave and do your regular route?
I went and did my regular route.
Could I have 61927, please? And could you play it? If you could back up a little before 61927.
I will say, chat, for everyone who's like this video again, we saw it a lot less this trial than last trial. We have not seen this video ad nauseum at this point. We've seen it a bit.
Is that weather consistent with what it looked like to you?
Not seen it ad
Yes.
nauseum.
Is that you there?
Also, these weather conditions, are they impeding your visibility? Anyone feel substantially impeded? I think it rained harder than that in Los Angeles yesterday because when I was on the phone with Judge Abby, I could hear it hitting her car. And that's LA. Like this is not wild snow.
I don't know if that's me. Yes, that's me. That is me.
No way. Brennan, are you fucking kidding me? You're fucking with this man nonstop over the time, and there's a video of his plow not being able to come down the road at 619 when he's trying to come down Fairview. It's on video. Okay. Why don't we just start here? All right, I'm going to push play and watch and see if Lucky sees himself on the snowplow.
Yes.
Is that you there?
I don't know if that's me. Yes, that's me. That is me.
How can you identify that it's you?
Could we go to 63245, please?
Wait, do we get to see the truck again? What point do y'all think Brennan's trying to make? Nope, there it goes the other way.
Is that you again?
That one, I can't tell if that was me again.
Could we go to 63514, please? Was that you?
That didn't even look like a plow.
I don't see it. I don't see the truck. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Could we go back to 63512?
That looks like to be a pickup truck. That does not look like my truck.
63745, please.
Are we going to go through every car that passed by? Look, there's cars on the road.
And that's you again, right?
Again, I can't tell you for sure if that was me.
Those were not your red and orange lights consistent with the earlier ones that went by?
Do other plows have those flashing
What I
lights?
saw the first time was the reflecting tape off the body of my truck.
Could we go to
I have
7?
a plow.
Sir, I know my truck, and I could see the reflecting tape.
Guy that is a contractor that we work tandem together.
And was he out there that night as well?
There is another plow guy who works tandem on the route.
We go to
I have
7.
a plow guy that is a contractor that we work tandem together.
And was he out there that night as well, going by Fairview?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever tell the private investigator about him?
Yes, I did.
7 o'clock, 22 seconds, please.
Kitty Carriel said, Emily, you're missing the point. Lucky just said he did not hang around there. He went and did his route, and the video shows he was there continuously. I don't think they've
Is that you, sir?
proven that. He said there were other plows on the road. They've proven his plow went by once. I think that's the point they're trying to make. But I'm waiting to see what they prove to me, because he said there were other plows out. So I've seen one. That might be the point they're trying to make. I've seen one where he's identified that was my plow. The other ones, he has not said that was his plow. If he does, then we'll see.
I can't say for sure.
7:15, 45 seconds, please.
But yes, I don't disagree that that's the point Brennan's trying to make. What are we seeing? Brennan?
Do you recognize that plow?
I do not.
I saw lights.
7:19 and 55 seconds, please.
My question is, A, there's somebody else plowing this route, but how often do the plows stay out? I truly don't know how often the plows are plowing in conditions
Was
like
that you,
this.
sir?
That was me.
Okay.
How long does your route take?
It's hard to say.
So this is
I
at
mean,
7:20?
as long as it's snowing, it can take as long as it takes.
Well, if you're going to do a pass, how long does an entire pass take?
If I were to do from Cedar Crest to the end, it would take probably 10 minutes. If I were to do the entire route, I'm not cleaning up. I'm just giving it a pass so people can get through. It takes about 3 hours. Could take 4 hours.
When you mentioned Brian Albert on your direct examination, had you talked to the defense about Brian Albert in your preparation for testimony?
No,
You knew some of the Albert family,
I know the entire Albert family.
and you know Brian Albert as a police officer?
Yes, I do.
Why is it that 3 times in your direct testimony you characterized him as a first responder?
Because he's a police officer. They're first responders.
Did anybody ever suggest to you to use the terms or the phrases first responder when you were describing Brian Albert?
No one did. Those are my words.
Since your trial testimony last year, have you received any more focusing or targeting of harassment?
That's good to Mr.
Since last year when you testified, have you received any recent aggression towards you for testifying?
No,
Have you had any further focus or problems?
no.
Yeah, misstates testimony. Well, that's fair. He's saying, have you had any further harassment? He has said there has been none this entire time. I think the question about why did you refer to him as a first responder is an interesting catch for Brennan, because the defense has emphasized, they're not the only ones, has emphasized Brian Albert being a first responder. Why didn't anyone go to knock on the door if they needed help for John O'Keefe? So Brennan is, again, in his questioning, trying to insinuate, but didn't the defense tell you to highlight that Brian Albert's a first responder? He's like, no, those are my words. He's a cop. He's a first responder. I think it's an interesting catch for Brennan because he's going to make that argument at some point. But
Very briefly, sir.
not now, because now Brennan is done. Did you receive any further harassment? Objection, sustained, and then Brennan just sits down. We're at redirect with Yannetti.
You were asked by Mr. Brennan about whether you saw a dumpster that night. Do you recall that line of questioning?
Oh, I wonder if
I
he's going
do.
to ask.
In the aftermath of January
Who asked you?
29th of 2022,
Right.
was a dumpster all over the news for the next 3.5 years?
Not that I'm aware of.
You were asked
Emily, don't make jokes about a dumpster fire. Don't make jokes about a dumpster fire. Don't make jokes about a dumpster fire.
going through your route with the defense investigator and giving a statement to the defense investigator?
Yes.
How soon after January 29th of 2022 was that?
2 weeks.
Were the events fresh in your mind at that time?
Yes.
Finally, actually not finally, I've got 2 more points, but they're both brief. You had mentioned that that night you actually misjudged and hit a net.
Yes.
Can you describe the basketball apparatus that, and I'm going to ask you what
This is
part
a
of it you
good way
hit.
to test
But
his
describe
memory.
what that looks like.
Right.
It's got a base with wheels on it. It's portable, so you can move it in and out. And it's got the basketball frame, and it's got the backboard and then rim.
Okay. So this is not a pole that was cemented into the ground.
Correct.
But perhaps we're all familiar with it, the black base that maybe you put sandbags on,
Correct.
that type of thing to keep it in place, but it does have wheels?
Correct.
All right, and you mentioned the net. The net is the rope netting that comes down, correct?
Correct.
There's also a hoop that keeps the net in place?
Yes.
And the pole?
Correct.
And the base?
Correct.
Of all those things, what part did your Frankentruck actually catch?
It caught the net in the little bit part of the frame, of the frame where the net was.
Something that you saw from the beginning, you just misjudged the distance.
Correct.
Now, finally, with regard to the 5:30
Dr. B did that once in a moving
testimony
truck.
that you gave last year,
It's a story
Yes.
for another day.
did you also testify that the last pass that you tried to make when the police were blocking the scene was about 3 hours after that 3:30 second up and down?
Yes.
So why is it last year that you testified that it was 3 hours later, but you came up with the time of 5:30 as the final time?
As he's asking me these questions, I'm trying to do the math in my head. I'm sorry, math is not my strong suit.
We feel you, sir.
What time was it when you made that final pass, sir?
6:15. 6:15, 6:30.
I have nothing further.
A good, succinct redirect. How did you get that wrong? Because I was trying to do the math in my head. Watching that testimony last time, it
You
was...
mentioned you're trying to do the math in your head.
You
It is,
the question was, you started at this time, 30 minutes here, 45 minutes there. I was confused. So I get it.
there is no reason why you would specifically remember certain times on each pass other than trying to remember and give an accounting, right?
Could you rephrase that, please?
Sure. You don't have your watch out on a certain schedule that you have to pass a certain street at a certain time.
Correct.
You weren't marking your times to some event when you were driving up and down the street that night, were you?
No.
So you're trying to go back with your memory and piece it together the best you can.
Correct.
And that's why you're giving estimates, yes?
Correct.
And when you spoke to those law enforcement officials, not Canton, not state police,
Okay.
and you said at 3 o'clock you saw first
Oh, that's his
responder
point.
vehicles.
Could it have been?
That was based on your
different.
memory, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was based on your memory.
Not at 3:30.
Right. Do you know that there was a car similar to a Ford Edge in front of 34 Fairview around 6 a.m. that morning?
I wasn't able to get in front of Fairview Drive, 34 Fairview, at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Have you ever met Kerry Roberts before?
I have not.
Counsel just asked you if there was a lot of media.
Sir, are you conflating a Ford Edge with Kerry Roberts' Ford Explorer? It's an interesting line of questioning, but the outline of the car is completely different.
About this case, and you said that there was.
I
Did he just ask you a question about whether there was a lot of attention on this case?
Objection.
Did he just talk to you about everything that happened after this case, all the attention on this case?
Objection.
Remember his question about all the attention after this case?
He asked specifically a question about the dumpsters.
And he said that wasn't subject to a lot of attention, was it?
Oh, it wasn't on the news every day for 3 years.
Correct.
That's what I
Right.
said.
But this case was.
The case itself, yes.
The people involved in this case were subject to a lot of attention.
Correct.
And you spoke to the defense investigator after this case as far as attention is concerned. Do you remember speaking to the investigator on June 5th, 2023?
Yes.
And do you know, coincidentally, that is the day that the blogger put out the articles on you, accusing you of not doing the right thing?
Objection.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'm very curious about that.
Showing you a document. Let's take a look at that document. What day is that document dated?
I don't think he knows that, though. And if he doesn't know it, it doesn't impact him.
June 5th, 2023.
Without reading it, that document talks about you.
Correct.
And your friends and people in the community talked to you about this article, didn't they?
Not specifically this article, but they were sending me stuff that were being printed about me, yes.
Why don't you take a little look at what's said and you can tell us whether that's the same type of information that was being conveyed to you through intermediaries.
Interesting. Brennan's not asking this necessarily to go to this witness. Brennan, I think, is asking this
You asked that.
to insinuate that the day he met with the defense investigator is the day that this was published online and someone had that information. So, how would anyone know that he spoke to a defense investigator that day? Why would anyone be talking about him? This is not necessarily going to this witness. This is going to the defense team. And we have seen Brennan do this consistently, pushing things on. What is the defense team doing? What is the defense team doing? What is the defense team doing? All of you are saying it's out, or asking me if it's outside the scope, not saying it's outside the scope, asking if it's outside the scope. No, because on redirect, Yannetti said, but conversation about a dumpster wasn't on the news for 3 years. This case was. This goes to talking about this case having attention.
Question again, please.
Answer. Was this some of the kind of attention that you were receiving on June 5th after you spoke to the defense investigator?
Yes.
Like to come sidebar?
He's going to try to admit that into evidence, isn't he? This does not go to this witness. This goes to the defense team. The cameraman has decided that the focus will be the blogger standing in the courtroom as a member of the media in this case. Which though they have not said Turtle Boy's name, I presume that that's exactly who they're talking about, and that is the blogger. They go to Sidebar. They went to OnlyFan, back to Sidebar, still at Sidebar. The jury must have gone out for a break. That's a room clearing Sidebar. So that they must have taken the morning
Things that
break.
might have been open.
All right, we're going to zoom past that. They must have taken the morning break, gone to sidebar, and just dismissed the jury when it was muted. So,
All right, Mr. Brennan.
Sorry, I have just a few more questions.
I bet they're not about that article.
When I had mentioned about meeting the defense investigator,
So, whatever Brennan was asking for at sidebar was denied, and he has moved on. I have noticed that the judge gives less leeway in cross, and that's been pretty consistent in the case that she's given a less leeway in cross for some of these things. And we're after the morning break, after the sidebar, and he's moving on into a different area.
on June 5th, 2023, I misspoke. It was June 5th, 2024. Does that sound more like it?
Yes.
June
Oh,
5th,
maybe not.
2024, was that shortly before you testified before?
He's correcting the date on that. Maybe he didn't lose the sidebar.
Yes.
You were asked on redirect examination whether any dumpsters got any attention about this case. The question I was asking is, did you notice things that might have been open and obvious? And you have no memory of an actual dumpster in the area, correct?
Correct.
If I could have on the screen Exhibit 37,
I know,
still
yes.
photo from that clip.
Moving on a bit, he corrected the date. Is anyone shocked that Hank Brennan said the wrong year? Nope. So the interview in the article, I think he's saying we're 2024, not 2023, shortly before his testimony in this first trial, which was June 21st, 2024. I'm going to zoom while he's trying to put this on the screen because I am trying to catch up to real time.
Video that I'll stop at. It's a video that I'll stop at for a certain point.
Okay.
Exhibit 71.
And sir, do you notice the
Make
big red
myself
dumpster
smaller.
to the right side across from Fairview?
No. Do you?
Yes.
I don't think I've ever seen this video with an angle of the dumpster. This must be facing the other way on Fairview. The dumpster parked in the driveway next to parked in a driveway next to a car that is car shaped. Well, car sized perhaps.
Yes.
Okay, you can take that down.
He said this was Fairview, but where
Sir,
on
when
Fairview?
we
That must
started the break, I'd asked you some questions. I showed you a document, asked you if you were aware what was inside that document, and you mentioned that was around June 5th, 2023. That was before your last testimony in this case?
Is it 2023 or 2024?
Yes.
And you knew that a person or persons were putting out private pictures of you online,
Oh, I don't like that at all.
I did notice.
and those private pictures, you didn't give anybody permission or want that attention, did you?
I did not.
In fact, it wasn't just some private pictures, it was pictures taken from a number of different times in your life, correct?
Yes.
You never gave anybody permission to do that.
I did not.
You didn't want
Were they-
people talking about you or asking you questions. That was none of their business, did you?
I did not.
And
Were
it
they
was
from
embarrassing that
his
you were
Facebook?
being made this public.
I just have questions about whether they were photos from a social media page. I have questions, but they're probably not going to get answered. Chat, don't answer. I want to know if it comes in on its own. I'm not asking for you to answer. I'm asking for the lawyers to answer in court. So appreciate that. Brennan keeps conflating the date because, again, it seems a bit more sus if you talk to the investigator the same day an article goes up. It's a lot less sus if it's a year apart and he keeps saying different years. So I don't really know.
Public spectacle when you had done nothing wrong, correct?
Ask it differently.
Was it embarrassing what they were doing to you?
I wouldn't say embarrassing as more as aggravating.
It was annoying.
In fact, they were calling your boss.
Ew, don't do that.
Yes?
I'm going to allow that.
Yes.
And you mentioned how hard you work.
Yes.
Plow, you even used to deliver peaches for 8 years.
Yes.
Zamboni, anytime you can work, you try hard, don't you?
I do.
And when someone's calling your boss, giving undue attention to you, didn't it create some concern that could affect your livelihood?
I did not think it was going to affect me in that manner.
In addition to dragging you into this, because of you, your brother was dragged into this, wasn't he?
What?
Ask it differently.
When you were getting this information
Oh, the
about what was
selectmen.
happening, you learned that they were also dragging your brother into this because of you, correct?
I'll sustain that.
Did you learn
I'm surprised she sustained that.
that information was coming out about your brother?
It can go to pressure to testify. It can go to
I
veracity.
knew my brother was dealing with other issues regarding this case.
And certainly, you're close with your brother.
Yes.
You care for your brother.
Yes.
You did not want to upset anybody and have more attention brought onto your brother, did you?
I did not.
And there was an attempt to link your brother to one of the Alberts, in fact, correct?
Yes.
As well as you.
I don't know if I was being linked.
Did you know the information of trying to so-called out you about the fact that you work for Chris Albert?
I'm going to sustain that the words first.
Were you aware when your friends and family were telling you about what was going on, about an attempt to draw a relationship between you and the Alberts?
No.
And were you aware when people were telling you what was happening, that there was attacks on you personally, like finances and things like that?
Yes, I was aware of that.
And certainly, that is pretty discouraging when that is happening. You've done nothing.
Putting out info about his finances?
It was, again, aggravating.
And this was all happening before you came in and testified last time at trial.
Correct.
After you testified, things got better.
I wouldn't say better. It's gotten a little more easily manageable.
You were no longer being harassed, you were being embraced.
Correct.
May I approach?
Yes.
All of you are saying, does any of this go to his testimony? It depends on the jurors. He has talked about, and he won't call it harassment. He has talked about the interneting at him, which I do not like at all. And then that attention shifted after his last testimony. So the prosecution is insinuating, I think, that somehow his testimony got more favorable so that he wouldn't be harassed, even though he's saying he's not being harassed. I don't think, for me, and let me know if this changes how you see his testimony. For me, I think this line of questioning goes more towards how the jury may view the defense team and not so much how they view this witness. I think it is more that purpose than insinuating he somehow changed his opinion. I also think it shows that witnesses in this case that came in to testify for the defense had been harassed online, and that might take some of the wind out of the sails of other witnesses that said they were harassed because of this case, because doesn't it kind of balance it out that witnesses being called by both parties have had harassment online? It might even that out, but I think a lot of the questioning is going towards the defense team and going to the jurors that might find that this is a tactic or that they don't like it and be like, it might just sit wrong with them. But I don't know if it changes how anyone's going to view his testimony. You let me know how you see it. Is it going to the defense? Is it going to his testimony? Or is it just leveling the playing field that people involved in this case don't necessarily want to be because of the attention they receive online about it and how disruptive it is to their life? I want to know how you see it.
Showing you a photograph, do you recognize that?
But I don't like people calling people's
do.
bosses at
That's
all.
part of the
Don't like that at all.
embracing process after you testify.
Even when it's Dr. Spiegel, I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. Do not go real world with people. Watch their testimony. Leave them alone. But again, that just goes to unknown individuals doing things. That doesn't go to anyone in this courtroom. Well, Brennan's trying to connect it to somebody in the courtroom, clearly.
A certain way at the last trial.
It was after I testified, yes.
This is a great point. A lot of you have said, remember, a lot of you in the chat have said, remember the ARCA voir dire with how harassed witnesses from ARCA had been. And
I need
witnesses,
to see what that is.
witnesses for the Commonwealth were harassed as well.
Sidebar and make this very brief, please.
I don't think any witnesses should be harassed. It does not sit well with me. They're going to sidebar.
So that's next in evidence.
That's coming into evidence. Oh, we're going to back up a little bit and do that one more time. I didn't think it was, so I wasn't going to back up. But that's coming into evidence, so now I'm backing it back up. Because that's coming into evidence.
Embracing process after you testified a certain way at the last trial.
It was after I testified, yes.
The embracing process after you testified last time.
Redaction to going to introduce a select portion of this.
Going to introduce it into evidence. They objected. The court's allowing it. I'm sure it'll be put up on the screen. But is that the kind of love you were receiving online? Also, Miss Little, it's just the best color green. I'm here for it. I forget the name of the female prosecutor because I don't think we've seen her question a witness in court. I like her color green too. They're in the same green today. It's like a hunter. They are redacting this. I'm going to zoom while they redact
Showed you a photograph.
until Hank gets to look at this photograph.
And I just showed you a photograph. Is that a fair and
McLaughlin,
accurate
thank
depiction
you.
of you
Miss McLaughlin. Appreciate it. I say Miss Little's name a lot more than Miss McLaughlin's.
after your last testimony,
Yes.
reflecting you now being embraced rather than attacked?
Yes.
Could we show the photo, please, Ms. Gilman, with the court's permission?
Yes.
And that's you, Mr. Laughlin?
Yes.
You can take that down, please. Thank you for your time.
Just very briefly, sir, if I
Somebody wanted to take a photo with him. He looks so uncomfortable in that photo. Does he look like he is comfortable literally and figuratively being embraced? You're telling me that you want me to be shocked or the jury to be shocked that there are people outside of the court who are going to take pictures with people who are part of this case? Really? Okay. And also his testimony was, yes, people came up and wanted to take photos with me and it was uncomfortable and I didn't know how to say no and I didn't want to cause an issue. All of you in the chat are like, I just want to give him a hug. I think the people outside of court do too, and that's how he ended up with the picture. Next to the pictures of Mr. Alessi.
might, Your Honor.
Sure.
We're on
Mr. Laughlin, I should say.
direct.
The questioning about the attention that you received in 2023 when you received secondhand the information from the blogger, was that before or long after you were interviewed and gave a statement to the defense investigator in February of 2022?
It was long after.
Nothing.
That is a great redirect. Because Brennan let the insinuation hang about the defense team that the day you talked to the investigators, the same day all this dropped online. And now he is saying, so you interviewed with the investigator in 2022 and this happened in 2023? Right. Probably be saying, Emily, you've seen the picture outside of court of Alessi. Yes, many of you have emailed it, DM'd it on alternate platforms. Yes, that one was unavoidable because how many of you sent it to me? Yes, I saw it, of Alessi flexing. He has more muscles than me. That was a great redirect. So they're your part? Cool.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Loughran, you are all set, sir.
All right, I'm going to summarize.
The defense calls Karina Kolokithas.
All right, do you need to see me before as she's coming in, or will that be in a while?
I can't remember.
Why don't you come on up really quickly?
Unity said, I can't remember. They're going to sidebar about the next witness, witness 7, Karina Kolokithas. Thank you again, chat, for no spoilers for those who are watching this trial for the first time. There are so many of you here. Here's what we know about this witness briefly. Emily, spoilers? No, she was at the Waterfall. That is all I'm going to say. So I'm going to summarize the testimony of Brian Laughlin, the plow driver. I almost said tow truck driver because now I'm stuck there. The plow driver who testified about plowing 34 Fairview and the roads adjacent to 34 Fairview, not seeing anything unusual on the lawn until he saw a Ford Edge parked going up Fairview in the street. And there was a procedure to call that in, and he didn't do that. He also testified that his brother is a town selectman. Remember, Chris Albert, we know from evidence, is also a town selectman for Canton. We heard that this witness had worked at Chris Albert's pizza shop, had regularly delivered pizzas to the Albert residents, knew that 34 Fairview was Brian Albert's residence, was familiar with it, and noted that that vehicle was parked in front of the home when he was plowing, and instead of calling it in, he just plowed around it. In cross-examination, we got to a lot of questions about, did you remember this time to be at 3 a.m. or 3:30 or 4:30? And we saw video where Brendan was showing Dashcam video saying, was that your plow truck? And in some of them, too, he said, yes, that was my plow truck. In the others, he said, I don't recognize that truck. There's another plow driver who's a contractor plowing this route as well. And that one looked like a pickup truck. When we got into the rest of cross-examination, it was about online. The internet has entered the chat. Did you know that a blogger was talking about you? Did you know that a blogger was threatening you? And this witness said, I knew somebody was talking about me online. My friends told me. I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel harassed. I didn't feel like I was being pressured to change my testimony. And he also said, during that time, my wife had just passed and I wasn't paying attention. My friends were telling me what was going on online. He seemed uncomfortable with any attention and annoyed by any attention. He did not say that he felt threatened or harassed. He did seem put out and annoyed. And the prosecution went down that road quite a long way. But they said this about you online. They said this about you online. They called your boss. They were calling your boss. Weren't you worried about your livelihood? It seemed very much like Hank Brennan was trying to get this witness to say that, well, I was being harassed online before my testimony, and then I testified, and then I was being celebrated online. And this witness didn't move away when he said, yes, the attention online changed after I testified. But he also said, I was doing my job and I came to testify because I was doing my job. I didn't want any of this. I don't know if Brennan was truly trying to get this witness to say, oh yeah, I was being harassed, so I just said whatever on the stand so that the online harassment would stop. Because I don't think this witness was ever going to say that. I don't think that's true. or if he was trying to insinuate that the blogger who he asked if was friendly with anyone in court, and the witness said, yes, I think he's friendly with the defense team, was Brennan trying to insinuate that the defense is strong-arming witnesses to come into court and say what they want them to say? And will we see him argue that later? But what stood out to me quite a lot in the cross-examination is that at one point, Brennan was crossing this witness saying, but didn't they tell you to do the right thing? Wow, Brennan, are you insinuating that that's a threat to get somebody to change their testimony? Interesting cross-examination. And then by the time we got to redirect, it was, did you feel harassed online? No. Did you want any of this attention? No. Were you just at work that day? Yes. I don't know if that cross-examination is going to change anyone's mind about this witness's testimony. Maybe it will. But I think for everyone seeing his testimony the first time, what do you mean there was a car near the flagpole, near where John O'Keefe was found, around 3:30 in the morning when the plow driver was plowing the road and had to plow around that car that he didn't see earlier in his shift? Isn't that interesting? They're calling Karina Kolokithas to the stand, and I am very interested to see this. I'm sure we're going to have to let the app know that we have changed witnesses because I really liked this witness last trial, and I am very curious to see where this is going to go. She was called by the prosecution in the prior trial, but they have very much reduced the witnesses they called this trial. They did not call everyone who was at the Waterfall. She was one of the witnesses called from being at the Waterfall. I'm going to zoom past this sidebar, which seemed like a bit of a sidebar, but not too much. So, Emily, you zoomed too far. Yep, sure did. Immediately did. All right, let's get to this witness taking the stand.
You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court, jury, in the case now and here is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
May I proceed, Your Honor? Yes. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell both your first name and your last name?
Sure. My name's Karina Kolokithas. It's Karina. Last name Kolokithas. Kolokithas.
That's almost as bad as your name.
It's long.
How many
times
has she been asked to spell her name? I love that Yannetti already has demeanor with this witness and said it's almost as bad as Yannetti.
I live in Canton.
How long have you lived there?
We've lived there for 22 years.
Where did you grow up?
So I initially grew up in Randolph, and then we moved to Braintree, and I finished my last 3 years of high school and stayed there till I was married.
And where did you go to school after high school?
So after high school, I went to Northeastern University. I did the pharmacy program there.
And what is your profession?
I'm a pharmacist.
How long have you worked as a pharmacist?
Is Alessi just sitting there going, why don't I get to talk pharmacy?
So total years is about 30 years as a pharmacist, but I have been at my current job for about 24 years.
Are you married?
I am married.
To whom?
His name is Nicholas Kolokithas.
How long have you been married for?
24 years.
Do you have children?
I have 2 children.
And without giving us their names, can you tell us if you have boys or girls and what their ages are?
So I have 2 girls. One is 19 and one is 17.
Have you raised your children in Canton?
Yes, I have.
Do your children play sports, or have they played sports in Canton?
I have both girls played sports in Canton. One actively is playing sports there, and one is in college, so she's not playing sports.
Understood. What sports have your girls played?
So they primarily played
All of you in the chat are like, she's been married 24 years? Yes, but I realize I've been married like 23 years at this point, so... And I also have a 17-year-old. Emily, the parallels. Is that why you liked it? No, I liked her testimony very much last time because her kids were giving her a hard time. And she was so upfront about having a long day. So, but yes, she's been married 24 years. I get it. I absolutely get it.
Basketball, and my youngest plays lacrosse as well.
From raising your children in Canton and attending their sporting events, I'm assuming, have you met other parents with children on your daughter's teams?
Yes, I have.
Specifically, did you come to know Jennifer and Matthew McCabe?
Yes, I have.
And is that the way that you came to know them?
Correct. Typically, like that's how we came to become friends with people, through the sports.
Yep.
Now, prior
It's so
to
real. It's hard to meet people as an
January
adult when your kids are
28th of
busy,
2022,
unless their kids are doing the same
how
shit.
long had you known Jennifer McCabe specifically?
I would say about 10 years or so.
And during that time, what was the nature of your relationship with Jennifer McCabe?
So we were just friends through the kids. Multiple kids did different sports. They played on different sports teams, so we were friends through that.
And how often, or if at all, did you socialize with her and or her husband?
So typically, sometimes if the kids had play dates, it was mostly my youngest daughter, to be honest. So my youngest daughter and one of her daughters were good friends and played on similar sporting teams. So they would have play dates and stuff like that. So
can't call it a
sometimes we'd
play date
see
in this
them
trial.
after a game, or
The
if
teens
they had a
will
play
hate
date
it.
or something like that.
And I'm sorry, it's
They socialized around the kid stuff. Can't call it a play date. They socialized around the kid stuff. If the kids got together, you talk to the other parents.
a little loud with the fan. If the last part of your answer, if I didn't hear it, I'm thinking the jurors might not have heard that. You said it was mostly after games?
After like sporting, like after play dates or sports and stuff like that.
I see. And would there be times where, after a game you go out for pizza, that type of thing?
Yeah, like you'd go out for pizza, or the girls would be like, "Hey, mom, can we have a play date? Can a couple
we
of
have
the
a
girls,
sleepover?
come over to the
Can they
house
just
and
stay?"
do stuff
Now-
like that?"
Prior to January 28th of 2022, did you know John O'Keefe?
So I knew John O'Keefe same way. His niece and my younger daughter were good friends, are good friends. So same thing. We knew him through the sports as well. My husband coached his niece in a couple teams, and they also played soccer together. So that's how we knew John.
And do you remember how long you would have known him for before January 28th of 2022?
I would say about 9 years or so.
And what was the nature of that relationship?
Friendly. Didn't like go out with him, but we were friends. Like we saw him all the time. He would, take my younger daughter with him. We just saw him all the time. So weekly, I would say.
Sure. What about Karen Reed? Did you know Karen Reed prior to January 28th of 2022?
So same thing, met Karen through John. And I believe the first time I met her was at Jennifer McCabe's house sometime in 2020.
2020.
Correct.
So this would have been during the pandemic?
Correct.
And do you see Karen in the courtroom today?
I do.
Would you please point her out and describe what she's wearing?
She is wearing a blue suit at the table with her lawyers.
Okay. May the record reflect that the witnesses identified Ms. Reed?
Okay.
Now, prior to January 28th of 2022...
This is one of the first civilian
how
witnesses
often-
we've seen neutrally identify Karen Reed. Some of the other witnesses have had a lot more emotion around it. She's just like, she's sitting over there. Just much more neutral identification.
Would you have seen or interacted with Karen Reed in any capacity, if you know?
So Karen sometimes would come to watch games of John's niece. So I would see her there, and we would just casually talk.
And what was the nature of your relationship with her prior to January 28th of 2022?
We were friendly.
All right. Now, directing your attention to January 28th of 2022, do you recall that being a Friday?
Correct.
What did you do that day
So that day I
Went
worked.
to a Canton basketball game?
as a pharmacist?
Correct.
Do you recall what your hours were?
Approximately, I would say 8 to 4:30 that day.
What plans did you have after work?
So after work, my plans were to go to the Canton High basketball game to watch my daughter play.
And what plans came up for before the game that night?
So before the game, before I left work, there was a text that went around saying that some of the parents were going to meet at the Canton Junction before the game, and if anybody wanted to stop by and grab a bite to eat.
And what is the Canton Junction?
So it used to be like a little pub/restaurant in Canton.
Did you go to the Canton Junction?
So I went home first because I went home first. I had a bag I had to switch out of because we have to have plastic clear bags at work. So anyway, so I went home, and then after that, I stopped at the Canton Junction.
Okay. And did you go alone or with someone?
So I went by myself.
And when you got there, did you see people that you knew?
Correct. So I walked in, and there was a bunch of parents there from the varsity teams, the varsity team.
And, excuse me, was either John O'Keefe or Karen Reed there?
They were not there.
What about Jennifer McCabe and or Matthew McCabe, her husband?
I believe Matthew McCabe was there. I don't believe Jennifer went to the Canton Junction.
Now, how long were you at the Canton Junction for?
I would say less than an hour.
Do you recall about what time it was that you would have been leaving there?
I'm not really sure. The game started at 6:30, so before 6:30.
All right. And when you left
Chad?
the Canton Junction,
The jury doesn't know. The jury has no idea what time the Canton basketball game started because it wasn't asked of 75,000 people during the case in chief of the prosecution like last time. No one's heard more than 2 sentences about the Canton basketball game, so the jury probably forgot it happened. Last trial, we all knew the score. I think we knew the entire rundown of the teams. I'm being hyperbolic. But this time, it's really the second time it came up, and it only came up in passing. So, yes, the Canton basketball game.
where did you go?
Who did
I
you
went
sit
to Canton High School to watch the game.
And in the gymnasium, with whom did you sit to watch your daughter's basketball game?
I'm not sure who I sat with, but it would have been those parents from the varsity team, whoever was there and wherever there was a spot.
Was it generally a custom that the parents of all the kids on the team would kind of congregate together in the stands?
Correct.
Do you recall what time the basketball game ended?
I believe the game ended around 8:30.
Where did you go after the basketball game?
So after the game ended, I went down and waited on the court for my daughter to come out of the locker room, greeted her, the players, and then I said to everybody, I'm going home.
Okay. And you did go home?
Correct. I went home after the game.
And having now made it home, what were your plans that night?
Stay the
So my
fuck
plans
home.
were to stay home. I was tired. I worked all day, watched the game. I was pretty much done with the day. So my plans were to stay home.
At some point, did those plans wind up changing?
So then I started getting text messages from my husband saying, you should come out. We're going to go to the Waterfall. And I said, no, I'm not coming.
And what is the Waterfall?
So that's a restaurant that has a bar, and it's on in Canton on Washington Street.
Okay, so you've given your husband the stiff arm, so
Correct.
to speak, right? You're
Correct.
not going.
I'm
Not
home.
going.
So what happens?
Not going.
So then he keeps on texting me. He's like, I'm at the Waterfall. You should really come. It's fun. There's a band. And I was like, oh, really? Like, I don't want to go. And then my kids got involved with the conversation.
And how did that affect your decision?
So they started saying to me, Mom, you never go out. You never do anything. You know, Dad's by himself. Just go. Keep him company while he eats. So I reluctantly went.
All right, so you were guilted into it.
Guilted 100% in.
Harassed by the teens. She's like, I am done. I have worked since 8 a.m. I have gone home. I have changed bags. I socialized before the game. I saw humans. I went and ate with the humans. I talked to the humans. I went to the game and sat with the humans. And then I saw my kids. And then I went home. No more humans. Home. And then her husband's like, it's so much fun. Come out. I'm home. Then her kids are like, Mom, you never do anything. You should go. God damn it. And there we are. And now she's had to testify twice. Kids, Mom, you should go. Look now. She was just trying to be done with the day. And now we're here. 2 times. 2 times she's had to testify. When the woman says she wants to stay home, let her stay home. Emily, this sounds very personal. Yes. When you are done for the day, you are done for the day. Too much peopling.
To it.
All right, so where did you go?
So then I went to the Waterfall.
Do you recall about what time it was that you got to the Waterfall Bar and Grill?
I believe I got there approximately 9:30 or so.
And when you first arrived there, who was there, if anyone, that you recognized?
So my husband was there, and then I recognized Jennifer and Matt McCabe.
And what happened after you got there?
So after I got there, I walked in, and I said to my husband, I'm like, where is everybody from the basketball team? And he said, I don't know. They all sort of split up. He said, don't worry. Just hang out here. I already ordered a sandwich.
Where is everyone we know? They've left. Can you imagine? You show up, you look at your spouse. Where are all the people that we know? They've already gone. There's this other group of people that are exceedingly intoxicated. Won't this be delightful? I've ordered a sandwich. Oh my God. Oh my God. I would be so mad. Who are these people? So mad. So mad. I've been lied to. I'm going back home.
So just hang out with me while I eat, and then we'll go.
Great.
And were you introduced to anyone?
Yeah, so then Jennifer McCabe started introducing me to all her family. So I got to meet a lot of them. It was fun. It was a good time.
And do you recall specifically who
She's a
you
very
met?
positive attitude.
So I think I believe I met, well, she sort of just introduced me to whoever was at the table. So I'm not sure 100%, but just like the niece, her sister, her brother-in-law, like people like that.
All right, the Albert family?
Correct.
And
People
when you're
it sounds like
being
she'd never met
introduced to a bunch of
before.
people at once, it can be tough to keep everybody's names straight at the time.
Right, it's kind of overwhelming. There was a lot of Jen's family.
Now, what were you drinking that night?
So that night I drank water.
And the whole time you were at the Waterfall, did you drink anything else except the water?
I only
Expected.
drank water that night.
They called her because she
Now,
was sober.
was there a point
I'm interested
when
to
you
see
were
how
going
else
to leave
she
the
describes the
waterfall
waterfall.
before they closed up for the night?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. You wound up leaving at a certain time, correct?
I never left.
Well, you left because you're in court today. You're not still at the waterfall.
Okay, correct.
So what I'm trying to get at is, at some point you left the waterfall, but was there a point before that?
She's like, it's like the Hotel California, sir. I have never been able to live. I have never been able to leave. We live here now. We live here now.
Where you were planning to go?
Correct.
All right. Tell us about that.
So my husband had eaten, and I said, you know what, I think I'm going to get going. And I was about to get going, and then John and Karen walked in.
Okay. And when you say John and Karen, you're referring to?
John O'Keefe and Karen Reed.
And why did that change your plans?
I was excited to see them. I liked Karen, so as soon as I saw her walk in, I was like, hey, I'm going to stay. I want to talk to her.
And what did you notice about John O'Keefe's mood when he arrived that night?
So John was very happy. His niece had just gotten into a private school called Bishop Fian, and that was like the first thing he was talking about. He was elated that she got in, and he was telling everybody about that.
And thereafter, how much interaction did you have with John and or Karen?
Karen and I probably spent the entire night talking. Maybe give or take some time that we didn't, but the majority of the time.
Oh my God, thank God you're here. Hey, girl. Who did you talk to the rest of the night? Her. We just talked. Mm-hmm.
Karen and I were speaking together.
And if you had to estimate, how long a conversation did you have with Karen?
Maybe an hour, like 40, 50 minutes out of the hour. Like if we spent like an hour together, perhaps we spoke 50 minutes of those out of that hour.
And without telling us the content of the conversation, what was the subject matter, if you remember?
So Karen was also, she mentioned being excited about Kaylee getting into Bishop Fian. And well, when I first saw her, she first started talking about my daughter. So I saw her, she came in, she greeted me, and when we did start talking, she just started talking about my daughter and how much she really loved my daughter's relationship with John's niece.
Okay. And while you were having this conversation with Karen, was it an easy conversation back and forth?
Very easy.
Where were you located within the waterfall while you were having this conversation?
We were at a high top. I don't remember where we were. We were talking. We were sitting down talking
it was a high
at
top.
a table.
And how close did you get to her when you were speaking with her?
We know it was a high top.
In order for someone to hear you, because of the band being so loud, we were probably a couple feet from each other.
And in what direction were you facing when you were speaking to her? And I'm talking in relation to Karen.
Huh?
I don't remember how, like, if she was next
Were
to
you
me at
facing
this
towards the band,
point.
towards
She
the
could
wall?
have been next to me at
Towards
this
the
point.
bar?
All right. And your face would have been facing where?
Towards her face?
At her.
Okay. That actually was the question. I'm sorry. This is kind of a stilted way to talk, but I have to ask the questions this way.
Where were you looking?
We were face to face.
At her
There you go.
face.
All right. So, in other words, Karen was also facing you when she was speaking to you?
Correct.
Did you notice what Karen was drinking?
So she was drinking a drink out of, it was a clear liquid out of a clear glass, and I assumed it to be alcohol of some sort, but I'm not sure.
And while you were talking with her, can you describe, was the conversation coherent?
Very coherent.
Was she making sense?
She was.
Was she engaged in the conversation?
She was.
That goes to level of intoxication, right?
And did you make any observations regarding her sobriety?
She seemed fine to me.
And you're a pharmacist, correct?
I am a
And
pharmacist.
you were that night.
I was that night.
How much interaction did you see that Karen had with John O'Keefe?
They had some interaction.
Right. We've heard that there was drinking. What we have not heard from anyone who's testified is that they observed Karen to be visibly intoxicated. Now, I'm sure that Commonwealth is going to make an argument based on some of the voicemails, and the jury will get to listen to the voicemails themselves. But you have someone who is friendly with Karen, who likes Karen, and who spent, 50 minutes sitting there talking to her to say, she seemed fine with me. I was drinking water. I don't even want to be here today, but I'm out. I saw my friend. We wanted to chat, and we were sitting face to face chatting, and she seemed fine. It goes to, at this point, level of intoxication and how those who know Karen and interact with Karen perceived her level of intoxication that night. As I think the only person in the Waterfall, I'm making no judgment on the people that work there in the band, who was sober.
And was there one specific interaction that stands out in your mind, then and today? And I'm talking about a physical interaction.
When they hugged at one point.
Okay. And did John come over to Karen at one point and do something?
He did.
What did he do?
So John went over to Karen and he gave her a kiss on the forehead.
Okay. And that kiss on the forehead, why did that stand out to you?
So honestly, I'd never seen something like that before, a boyfriend do to a girlfriend in public. Never saw that. So it just stood out to me. I was like, wow, that's the sweetest thing I've ever seen.
Can we cue up Exhibit 22, Mr. Wolk? I'd like to go to
like, "We're
approximately
from Boston."
11:36 and 41 seconds.
It was sweet.
And if we can, well, first of all, have you seen that video before, ma'am?
I have.
Do you recognize what Exhibit 22 depicts?
It shows the waterfall.
And is that consistent with what it looked like when you were?
Boston residents in the chat, you can chime in on adult PDA. I don't think it's off topic. If it is, because chat is like, wait, what? You can chime in. But she was like, I've not seen that. I thought it was incredibly sweet. So y'all, for sure, from Boston, go ahead and put it in. A lot of you are saying, nah, we don't do PDA in New England. So did New England really just adapt that from England? It's like, no. Dogs and horses. We're not, nope. We're showing affection with being like, nah, get out of here. All of the Bostonians in the chat are like, ew, PDA. Fuck, what's that? Gross. Thank you, New Englanders, for helping the international chat have a relative gauge for PDA in New England.
Were there that night?
Correct.
And you've previously identified that as being a fair and accurate video of that night?
I do.
If we could zoom in, well, first of all, again, let me try and lay a foundation. Where would you be, if you recall, at the waterfall within that video? To the right, to the left?
I'm in the right, in the black top, sitting on a chair.
Okay, could we zoom in on that area, Mr. Wolf?
I love all of you saying we show our affection to Duncan.
Okay. We've zoomed in.
Some of
Do
you got
see
my movie
yourself?
quote.
I do.
And where are you seated?
So there's a white jacket on the back of a chair. That's me.
And do you see anybody else in that video that you now recognize?
I see Brian Higgins.
Okay. And when you say Brian Higgins, is that somebody that you had known?
My God, this
prior to
video.
that?
Okay. So she is saying that she is in this chair with the white jacket on it. Yes. It's yes.
Night?
I did not know Brian.
He was one of the people you were introduced to?
Correct.
And you since have learned, put the face to the body, or I'm sorry, I should say the name to the body or the name to the face?
Correct.
All right. And where do you see Brian Higgins?
He has like an emblem on the back of like a sweatshirt.
All right, so his back is to the camera?
Correct.
And we have not located that pointer.
He's like, we have not located the pointer. Where is the pointer?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to fast forward while they are looking for the pointer.
Now, if you can,
Oh,
ma'am, would you
maybe not.
please use that pointer
I've
to
got
show
my
where
mouse.
you are first?
That's where Higgins is.
That's
where
me.
she is.
Okay. And Brian Higgins?
Oh, they found it pretty quickly.
That's him.
All right. Do you recognize, at this point in the video, do you recognize anybody else?
Not right now.
Okay. If we could start to
Well,
play it,
that's
Mr. Wolf.
Karen right there, I think.
And stop for a second.
And Jen.
I would ask you, as soon as you recognize somebody else, if you'd speak up and tell us to stop, and we'll pause.
Okay. So right there is Karen's head.
Okay. Is that the back of Karen's head, or?
Correct. So that's the back of her head.
All right.
And
And
then
you're, by the way, just so the record's clear, over Mr. Higgins' shoulder, there appears to be a face looking forward on the right shoulder. You see that, right?
correct.
You're not referring to that. You're referring to the
Not
long
here.
hair that's
Back
in
there.
back of that face.
Yeah. Can
Hopefully
could
my
I
mouse
point to
pointer
it again?
helps.
Okay. So I'm referring to that head right there.
Understood. Okay.
And
And
then-
I think you had said something else?
And then that right there is John O'Keefe with the hat.
Okay. There's a ball cap.
Correct.
And on the video, as we're looking at it, it's to the right up the top. It's to the right of the PM chyron there.
Right
up the
to the
top
right
of the screen.
Correct. Sorry.
If we could continue to play. Stop. What do you see?
So I see John giving Karen a kiss on the forehead.
Is that what you saw that night?
I did. I was looking right at them when it happened.
It's a very
You were
sweet
facing them.
moment.
I was facing them.
And what about Mr. Higgins? Where was he facing?
It appears that he's facing them as well.
That happened right in front of him.
That's what it looks like.
If we could play further.
A number of you in the chat said that the subtitles were blocking you being able to see it. Totally fair. I'm going to back this up because you can't reach and grab it on your own computer screen. So I'm going to move them to make that a little bit easier and put these down at the bottom since we've heard what she said. So chat, thank you. Always happy to help.
What about Mr. Higgins?
And sometimes I forget because I have two screens to watch it on. It makes it a little easier for me. All right.
In front of him.
That's what it looks like.
If we could play further.
It's easier to see John O'Keefe because he has the hat on.
Okay, you can stop and we can take that down.
Hopefully that was easier to see that time. John O'Keefe's in the back with the hat and
Now-
walked up and kissed Karen on the forehead.
That night, did you have any information about the nature of Karen Reed's previous interactions with Brian Higgins?
None whatsoever.
I kind of wish Karen would have spilled the tea at the bar, though. Aren't all of you waiting for her to be like, girl, I've been having this text thing with this dude who's sitting right over there. Don't look. Don't look. Don't look. Is he looking? Don't look. Don't look. Like over there, over there. And we were texting. But John and I are good now. So like, it's super weird that he's here. Like, it is so awkward. I'm so glad you're here. But like, don't look. But is he looking? Like, that's the conversation I need to hear. Tell me I want to know. The band was loud.
Okay. How long did you stay at the Waterfall? Or if you recall about what time you got ready to leave?
I believe things wrapped up around midnight.
And with whom were you leaving around midnight?
So my husband and Matt McCabe stayed behind. They were helping the band clean up and stuff. So it was myself, Jennifer McCabe, and Karen Reed that walked out together.
Okay. And you've previously seen video footage of the end of the night with yourself, Karen, and Jennifer McCabe sort of in a grouping.
Correct.
Excuse me, I'm sorry that I just need to clear my throat. I hope that's the
okay.
last time.
Let
That's
me
okay.
clear my throat.
Did you see on that
I
same
couldn't
video
help
at
it.
the same time, there's a grouping in another area of the bar at the same time?
Correct.
And do you recall who was in that grouping?
I believe it was Chris Albert, Brian Albert, and Brian Higgins.
Okay. Could we now publish again Exhibit 22? And I'd like from the approximate start time of 11:57 and 42 seconds. And if we could hit play, Mr. Wolf. Oh, I'll tell you what, stop it for a sec. Thank you. Could you zoom in, please, on the right portion of that video, the upper right? We'll start with that. Okay. So this is the start of this clip. It looks to be 11:57 and 38. Do you see anybody in that clip that you recognize?
Yes, so I am the person with the jacket with the fur around the hood, and Karen Reed is the other woman that I'm talking to.
Ma'am, the chat would like to know if the boots also have the fur. And your skincare routine. There's been a lot of requests for that as well.
And right now, do you recognize anybody else in the background of that?
So to the right in the plaid shirt is my husband, Nicholas.
Okay. What about over your
He was
left
delightful
shoulder?
too
So
on the
over my
stand.
left shoulder is John O'Keefe.
And does that appear to be his back?
Correct.
Okay. You can play.
This is a bit easier to see for me. Because John has the hoodie and the sleeves and the
stop
hat.
for a second. He was in your line of vision at that point, correct?
Correct.
What does he appear to be doing?
He appears to be like paying a tab or something like that, or maybe getting a drink. I'm not sure.
Okay. And do you see him looking in a particular direction right now?
He looks to be looking over his left.
Continue to play. Oh, if we could pause for a second. I neglected to ask you to point out with the pointer. We
Oh,
have
I'm
it now,
sorry.
we might
Okay.
as well use it.
Okay.
If you could point to yourself first.
Okay, so that's me,
All right, Karen
that's Karen,
and John O'Keefe.
that's John.
It's a
Okay,
very fair
continue to
point
play,
that we
Mr.
are literally at closing time, so all the lights are up on the bar, making it easier to see. It's fair. Closing time. One last call for alcohol.
Stop.
So finish your
Back up just a sec.
vodka and Crystal Light. Chad, it's not. I promise it's not a random reference.
I'll tell you when to
Unless you
stop.
didn't watch the first trial, we'll
Stop.
tell that story later.
Okay. Do you see what direction he's John
Yeah,
O'Keefe
the bar
is
was
facing
closing up
now?
early because of the snow.
He's looking to the left.
Okay, keep going. Keep going.
So that's why the lighting changed for the video.
Stop. What direction is he facing now?
To the left.
And what is over to the left?
I believe that's where the other group of men are located,
Everything
perhaps.
you own
Okay. Keep playing.
in a bag? No?
And I'd like to run this to 11:58:25.
John looked at his phone. It
Stop.
looks like to me, because you can see the
This
flash
point,
of the phone.
At this point, his whole body is turned to the left, correct?
Correct.
And he appears to be facing where the other group of men were?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
He appears to be facing in the direction of where the other group of men were?
Correct.
Continue to play, all through until 11:58:25.
He also looks like he's laughing with Nick Kolokithas, who's in the
Okay,
plaid.
That's perfect. Now, keeping the video up, I'd like to
You
now
can't see my mouse on the screen,
over
but
to the
Nick
left side of the
Kolokithas is in
screen,
the
and we're going
plaid
to start that
over
at
by the wall.
11:57:42,
That's her husband.
the same approximate time we started the previous discussion.
I think replaying this video now is helpful. I know it was impactful to many the first time they played it. I think replaying it with Karina Kolokithas, who seems to have no agenda other than when I am done for the day, I am done for the day, leave me alone, which honestly, relatable. But she's just telling you what she saw because she was there. She's an incredibly likable witness. She doesn't come in with an agenda. She saw what she saw, and she doesn't have any frustration towards any of the parties or towards being there. Some of the witnesses, even though they've been neutral, have been frustrated by being there. And she's just been like, I'm going to answer the questions and tell you how I felt. This is what it is. I think it's a very helpful way to go through this video.
Stop. Okay.
Because that is something that the defense wants to get through more. What is happening in this bar at closing time and with whom? I backed it up a bit.
Stop. Okay. You've previously described the other three men. Are you able to identify them on this video now in this still frame clip?
I believe I am
Okay.
able.
And who do you see?
I see Chris Albert, Brian Higgins, and Brian Albert.
And which one is which?
Chris Albert is the one that grabbed Brian Higgins' arm, and Brian
That's Brian
Albert
Higgins, whose
is
arm
with
was
his
grabbed.
back towards us.
Okay, now I'll ask you to use the pointer and point to Chris Albert, please.
That's Chris Albert.
On the right. Where's Brian Higgins?
That's Brian Higgins.
In the middle.
Yeah, in the middle. And that's Brian Albert,
Okay.
I believe.
And with regard to Brian Higgins, which direction is he facing?
He's facing the left.
He's facing to the left?
I mean, I'm sorry, he's facing to the right.
Okay. And the direction that he's facing in, who's over there?
Sustained.
What is over there? Is that the direction of the bar?
Sustained.
Okay. Continue to play, please.
Is anyone confused that they are looking in the direction of where John O'Keefe is? I think it's kind of clear.
Stop. Did you see he grabbed his arm a second time?
Correct.
And Brian Higgins is facing in which direction this time?
He's facing the bar area.
Continue to play, please. Okay. You noticed some motion that Brian Higgins made?
He waved his
Back
arm.
it up for a second, Mr. Wilk, please.
I think the jury can see for themselves what's happening on the video, right?
Stop.
They can see who's looking where, who's
Did you see a
gesturing
motion?
how.
He put his left arm up.
Okay. Appeared to be summoning somebody.
Sustained.
Continue to play. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Continue to play. I'll bear that in mind. Okay, we can stop there. Ms. Kolokithas, did you see how many times Brian Higgins motioned with his arm?
Sustained. Commonwealth versus please, Mr.
Understood, understood.
Emily, do you know
No,
that case off the top of your head? No, I don't.
Prior to this night, had you known or been
Will I
aware
grab
of
it?
Chris
Yes,
Alpert?
at some point I will. Hey, Dr. B. You've come to give me
Just
a
knew
time check.
him
Yes.
from seeing him
just-
at D&E Pizza.
Okay, and you say you've seen him at D&E Pizza in what capacity?
I think he's the owner there at D&E Pizza, and we've gotten pizza there before.
And you'd been in that establishment before?
Correct.
And with regard to Brian Albert, have you had any interaction with him, either that night or before?
So that night, I was introduced to him, and I think I even spoke to him a little bit there, and then maybe saw him like a basketball game. I don't remember him really prior to that night.
Okay. Now, I'd like to play the portion of the video
I will
where
look at the
you
case
are
law.
then leaving and ask you some questions about
But
that.
I would imagine the video speaks
yes,
for
I think
itself.
we can zoom out and
Is where we're at.
perhaps hit play, Mr. Wolk, at this point.
And again, you know what? The jury's going to be like, oh, I'm watching this again then. They've made the point. Yes, Dr. B was like,
And pause for a sec. If you could use the pointer and just point out again where you are at this point.
That is me.
All right. And are you able to see Karen at that point?
She's right there.
Okay. And what about Jen McCabe? Are you able to see her at that point?
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. Continue to play, please. And stop for a sec. I should have asked you, if you do see Jennifer McCabe enter the picture, could you alert us?
Okay.
Continue to play.
remember, it's up to the defense to give the jury other possibilities. That's what they're trying to do. Is it possible that there was something going on between Higgins and John? That's what the defense is going to argue. Is that a reasonable possibility? If the jury feels like they can't say it's this or this definitively, is this a reasonable possibility? And that's what the defense is going to argue. It's the Commonwealth that has to be definitive. The defense can work in, hey, this is possible, that is possible. So if multiple things are possible, then it's not a one thing that happened. AC, thank you. It's not the caps from the mods, it's from Nightbot, but I see it. I appreciate the site for the case. I've got it. Thank you. That's Nightbot because my dyslexia and all caps don't play nicely together, and streaming and reading chat and watching trials already brain intensive. I'm gonna look up that case, y'all, and I'll put my thoughts in the app. I'll just message you on the app later today when I have Wi-Fi, but I'll look up the case
When
and
you can turn the lights back
message
on.
it out to everybody that's in the Laughlin app later today, because I'm not going to be able to update it while
When
on stream.
you were leaving the establishment, whom did you leave with?
So again, it was myself, Jennifer McCabe, and Karen.
Did anything unusual occur when you were leaving?
So as we were leaving, Jen went over to Karen, kind of put her arm around her, and she started saying, "You're coming with me, you're coming with me." And Karen's like, "Huh? Like, what? Like, where are we going?" And
I'm going to sustain the objection.
It's to hearsay to what
The
Karen said.
First part of that answer,
Emily, why is
putting
what
her arm
Karen said
around-
hearsay now and it's not hearsay at other times? Because it is being offered by the defense and it's the statement of their own client, not a party opponent.
You're coming with me. Why did that stand out in your memory?
just because I was there too, and it just was strange. It was just like, "You're coming with me." Like, it was just something that stood out to me.
You weren't included.
I mean, no, it's fine. I mean, it was just stood out.
She's like, you better not.
Yeah.
You better not. She's not
Did
worried about
Karen
not being
go
included. She's like,
with
I'm not
Jen?
going anywhere else.
No, she did not.
What did you see her do?
So then, out of the clear blue, thinking that Karen was going to go with Jen, I see Karen with John.
And where did you see Karen with John?
I saw them just I was parked across Washington Street, across from the restaurant, and I just saw Karen and John like walking down towards what used to be Amber Road, a place.
It used to be Amber Road.
It used to be Amber Road, yeah.
Is that a Amber Road cafe?
Correct. It was like a restaurant. It was like a little cafe shop.
And did you figure out why they were walking in that direction?
That's where I think Karen had parked her car.
Did you have any concerns about Karen being able to drive that night?
I had talked to her all night, and I did not notice anything strange about her. Like, I didn't think anything of it.
And once you parted ways, where did you go?
I went in my car.
And what was your last image of seeing Karen and John that night?
It was just them walking towards the car.
If I may have a moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
It's just, again, when we have these moments of trial that bring it back to the human cost in this case, it's incredibly sad. And I think she's navigated that really well, but it's sad.
Okay.
All right.
No further questions, it sounds like.
Mr. Brennan?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Was your last image of Karen and John, both of them walking to the car and Karen walking to the driver's side door of that car?
Correct.
That night it was a celebratory mood?
Correct.
Everybody was getting along fine?
Yes, we were. Yes.
You were speaking to the defendant for some time?
Most of the time, correct.
You saw her at points hugging Jen McCabe?
Correct.
Interesting strategy on cross.
You knew John.
I did.
He was a kind man,
Very kind.
generous,
Very generous.
thoughtful,
Very thoughtful.
soft-spoken.
Yes.
That night was particularly different. He
She
was
sound-
extraordinarily proud and happy, wasn't it?
It sounded to me like she was surprised that Brennan knew that. Didn't it? Like soft spoken. And it sounded like she was surprised that Brennan knew that about John.
Yes, he was.
And you could see him emote about his accomplishment that his daughter got into private school.
Correct.
Did you talk to John that night?
I did.
No further questions. Thank you.
No further questions.
All right, Ms. Kolokithas,
She looks
you are
confused.
Okay, thank
She's
you.
like, that was easy. No further questions.
So why don't I see counsel regarding scheduling?
She's going to see counsel regarding scheduling. That's it for witnesses. I'm going to zoom past this so quick before Dr. B comes in here and says, Emily, what we're not going to be doing is being late. Here's the strategy that I thought was good. No, let's look at scheduling and then I'll tell you. Scheduling first, Emily. Scheduling first. Prioritize. Squirrel. No squirrels. All right. They are coming back into court. Seems like they had a pretty long sidebar. But that witness definitely seemed surprised that the cross was so short. I think it was the appropriate way to do cross. The jury is coming back in. So the jury had been excused from the courtroom.
but we were able to come back shortly. All right, jurors, I just realized that I probably made you go downstairs and up twice to just come back shortly. I'm sorry I inconvenienced you that way, but we were able to talk. I am assured not only are we on schedule, we are ahead of schedule.
Woohoo!
I understand tomorrow's supposed to be very hot. Court officers are concerned about how we're going to keep the fans and air conditioners going and be allowed to hear the witnesses. I've
Yeah, it
talked
looks
to the lawyers.
wicked
Everybody's
hot in there today.
agreement that because we're ahead of schedule, we give you tomorrow off. All right, so we won't be in session tomorrow. We will be in session Friday all day. So those same reminders, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, and read anything about this case, please disregard it and let us know. And be careful with your social media. I'll see you later.
All right.
Well, damn, y'all. That's going to work with my schedule just fine. The spoilers in the chat I didn't mind is that there's no court tomorrow after a half day today. I'm going to Zoom. I apologize in advance that we are not going to get to everybody's questions. I am traveling today, and so it just makes my life imminently easier to not be streaming at like 5-ish a.m. Tomorrow, and to have a day between that and then to stream from the hotel just on Friday. It just makes my life much easier, especially since I've done this trial for 2 consecutive summers now. And family time is, well, precious and sometimes way too short. Emily, you're all emo. I am so happy that we are done with court for the day and I am not going to be late. There is much relief. Also, the testimony of Karina Kolokithas she's a delightful witness. It's also really sad testimony for me because it's just how that night was just a normal. Yep, I'm all emo. Just a normal night with friends until it wasn't. It's just tremendously sad, right? And she's a delightful witness and wasn't forcing emotion, which we've seen with so many witnesses. And the fact that she wasn't forcing emotion really makes it more emotional testimony for me. I don't know if that's the same for you, but it's a normal night. Everyone is celebratory. John is over the moon, excited for his niece, for the future they're going to have, for everything to come. And then everything goes sideways. And here's what's so frustrating to me about this case still. I am an attorney. I've been an attorney for 20 years at this point. A lot of law is gray. But oftentimes when you get to criminal law, things are not always as gray. A lot of the cases we look at, there might be bits that are gray, but most of it is pretty, oh, I understand what happened here. And the frustrating thing about this case is that at the end of the day, it is very hard to pin to, I feel like I understand what happened here. And with certain witnesses, that resonates so much more. And I think at the end of the day, Karina Kolokithas is one of those witnesses where even though she is talking about what she saw, she's talking about the evening at the waterfall, she's not talking about what happened after everybody left the waterfall. It highlights how from the time everyone leaves the waterfall, something horrible happens. But what that thing is, we just don't quite know. Or at least that's where I am with this case. Hi, Georgie. I know. We have witnesses on this side and we have witnesses on this side and we have witnesses saying, I've seen these injuries in a slip and fall. I've seen these injuries when somebody just falls backwards after a heart attack. These injuries can be caused by somebody falling. These injuries can be caused this way, this way, this way. The injuries to the arm are caused by a dog. The injury to the arm are caused by a taillight. But there are still so many questions. So at the end of day 27, Karina Kolokithas took the stand to talk about the night at the Waterfall and talk about the Canton basketball game for maybe the first or maybe second time in this trial, not the 207th. Talk about seeing John and Karen at the Waterfall and that they were sweet with one another, that it was a fun night. It was a celebratory mood. And that was the cross-examination of Hank Brennan. Everyone was in a good mood. Everybody was celebratory. Jen McCabe and Karen were hugging. Everybody was having a good time. But the defense broke down the Waterfall video again, and I wonder if it will be more impactful now because you see the Waterfall video again, and the jury doesn't have the ability to go online and rewind and watch it all they want. They've only seen it a few times in court. And the defense zoomed in to Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, and Chris Albert, with Chris Albert grabbing Brian Higgins' arm, with Higgins looking like he's looking in the direction of John O'Keefe, and they're saying something to each other, though nobody has testified what that is. So you've got the witness on one hand saying it was a jovial evening. People were having fun. I walked out with Karen and John. But you also have this video where the defense is saying, but what's going on over here? And will that leave a doubt in the juror's mind about whether that was a jovial evening, whether they were just chatting with each other, whether it was, hey, come on to this party. Hey, come with us. We're going over to Brian's house. Come on, we're going to go drink. Or was it, come on, we're going outside. Are we going outside? Come on, we're going. And because nobody has testified to what was said and that video has no sound, both sides, I think, will argue it. But I think we'll probably see the defense argue it more. But at the end of the day, the jury has the video and they're going to get to interpret it for themselves. But I think at the end of this day, with the court being dark tomorrow, the jury is left with a witness I'm sure they like very much, with testimony that reminds everyone that this evening was a normal evening like everything else until it wasn't. And I wonder if one of the biggest takeaways, other than the video from Karina Kolokithas, is one, sometimes when you want to stay home, maybe staying home. But two, she talked to Karen Reed for more than 50 minutes. She knows Karen Reed. She was drinking water all night, and she did not perceive Karen Reed to be intoxicated. Will that testimony be persuasive to the jury about Karen Reed's level of intoxication? Let me know if it was persuasive to you. Lawnards, thank you for being here. My nose is itchy. I'm going to pull up that case. If I have Wi-Fi on the plane, you guys are the best. It's great to stream with you. You've made this the #1 place to watch trials. You have made the live trials podcast, because we put this on a podcast so you guys could listen in the background, because so many of you do, make it easier for you to listen in the background, because a number of you had reached out and were like, why can't I listen to this in the background? We put it on a podcast playlist so that you could, and we've been in the top playlist on YouTube since we did that, because we were like, well, I mean, if everybody wants to listen in the background, we'll make it a podcast so you can listen in the background, so you can listen to live trials in the background when you are catching up on the replay crew, or even when you are out and about trying to get stuff done. Make sure you have the Lawnard app. We will be back in court Friday. Emily, will you be tired? Most likely. It's going to be very early. We know Emily's not a morning person. If we know anything for certain, she's going to run late and she's not a morning person. But I will see you in court on Friday. I will message you what I think about that case in the Lawnard app, or I can send a message to all of you. And we will talk more about this case soon. But for now, Dr. B is maybe less patiently looking at me from the side of my office saying, girl, it's time to get on a plane. So I will be traveling. I will be streaming from a hotel Friday. I will see you then. Lawnards, you are the best. Thank you. I know I couldn't get to as many questions, but we tried to keep it as on time as we could. You are the best. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Lawnards, we are out. Don't forget to go download our sponsor, Midas Merge. And in some of our members' places, I will make sure to make a post. I will not forget. It will happen sometime today, so you guys can share your game IDs if you would like to friend each other in the game. And I will see you in court on Friday, and I will talk to you soon. Well, no, Emily, in court on Friday. Just go. It's time to travel. Leave. Bye. Thanks for joining me on this stream. If you don't want to miss a moment in court, you need the Lawnard app at lawnardapp.com. It's a free download on iOS and Android where I can keep you in the loop with everything happening in court and, of course, when the jury has a verdict. So if you don't want to miss a moment of this trial coverage, make sure you get the Lawnard app. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Lawnard.